Okay, call this work session to order Wednesday, October 16th, 1 p.m. Open for visitor comments. Come on up. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Joel Haugen, Scappoose. And I just want to make a quick comment that sometime in early in 2020, I would really like to see a joint meeting between Scappoose and St. Helens City Councils to look at areas where we can collaborate. I think that we were both well served by such an initiative or effort, and my personal goal will be to eventually develop a trail that connects St. Helens and Scappoose, and I think that's eminently doable, and that might be a good place to start. But anyway, to get the discussion going, have a public forum, and do that early in 2020 if we can get that on the calendar. So thank you for considering that.
Thank you.
Joel? Oops, Joel?
Yep.
Your place or our place? How would you like it?
I think that's up to Mike and John.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
We definitely have some properties, though, that abut one another.
Yeah.
May have to talk to Scappoose or Santosh. And require a couple bridges. That'd
We
be kinda cool.
can figure something out.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be great.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Okay, other visitor comments? Okay, presentate. We're supposed to be? Oh, yeah, come on up. That's right. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
I'm Zuanna Stansbury. This is Brooke Allen and Grace Belfus, and we're here on behalf of the St. Helens High School Safe and Sober Party, or Committee. So first I'd like to start by saying what our goal is, and our goal is to have an amazing party at a safe venue for the graduates of the class of 2020 on graduation night. All of our money is raised, and our proceeds goes towards cash prizes and activities at the venue to make it fun for the students. We have food, big prizes, and at the party. To put a big celebration on it takes hours of volunteering, multiple fundraisers, and much appreciated donations through our community. This year we have 199 seniors graduating, and each senior needs 10 hours of volunteer work time. It takes everyone to make this successful, and we have a lot of fundraisers going on so that each and every senior has the opportunity to put in their 10 hours, which then creates less of a fee for them. We have lots and lots of bottle and can drives each month. We have bazaars, and we do booths there. And then we have 50-50 drawings at our sporting events, mostly during senior nights. We volunteer for different events. I believe we have a booth at Halloween Town, the 26th and 27th. And then we have, we do a kids' night out at the pool, local restaurant partnerships. I know that there's one at Sunshine where I work. We sell candy bars and pepperoni. And then we do, our largest event is a Hood to Coast. We do a booth where we were selling snacks and beverages and meals, which we raised $5,000 in a 24-hour period.
Nice.
Yeah, so we would just like to thank you for listening to about our event, and on behalf of the class of 2020, we would like to thank you.
Yeah. So I think you're here to ask for a donation, aren't you?
Yes.
That's what I gather.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Typically, we've done 500 for the Safe and Sober.
Yeah, and you know, this is a opportune time for the Minos city to weigh in, right?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking that it would be really kind of nice because the band comes forward and asks for donations.
Yeah.
The soccer club sometimes does that, and many other groups, youth groups. And we might consider a kind of a timeshare kind of thing of contributions to the city, like parks cleanup, clean up a park,
Yeah.
and that would you know, you could log so many hours doing that,
Yeah,
and then
mhm.
that could work to your
Volunteering.
donation. Are
Yeah.
you open to that?
I believe so. I would.
Wow.
I wouldn't imagine why we wouldn't be.
What a great partnership, huh? So I would certainly entertain something like that with a lot of our youth groups that come forward.
Councilor Topaz. Yeah, turn on your mic there, Steve.
One thing the city should do is every month point out that the high school is raising this fund. So we should, and with our communications group, keep the city aware of what you're doing. Not just your high school media, but the city should do that also. Any way we could figure out how to have a city high school fundraiser for whatever reason should be done.
We do have a youth group that could help be a liaison for those ideas and facilitate those ideas as well.
Well, I definitely think the more PR we can give between the city and our students, we better do it. I mean, it should be first on our deck.
Yep.
So thank you for coming just for that reason alone.
Thank
The
you
money
for having
also.
us.
And I like the fact that you guys do 10 hours. It's automatic 10 hours of service per person to
Yeah.
alleviate the cost. So
Perfect.
I'm proposing that we give them $500 donation, and we'll pull that out of council funds.
Good.
You guys in favor of that? Head nods?
Yep.
There's 3 of us here. So there you go.
Thank you
got
so
500
much.
bucks. Thank you.
Set a good precedent for that.
Okay. Request to connect. Oh no, we're at Dalton Lake. Project proposal. Lynn, you want to come on up? Bring your posse with you?
What an excellent posse it is.
Yeah, it is. Good group to have.
Okay, so my name is Lynn Pettit, and I'm from Warren. And I'm presenting the preliminary concept for Dalton Lake. I'd like to introduce part of the advisory committee here, and as you see on the handout, we have the full list. And this is Chip Bouville, and this is Deborah Brimacombe.
Welcome.
So I think what I'd like to do is start out by telling some of the people here that might not know Dalton Lake, where it is, and kind of just give the boundaries there. I've talked to many people that have heard about it, but aren't quite sure where it is. So Dalton Lake is an area of approximately 56 acres between Columbia City and St. Helens. And it's bounded by the Columbia River on the east side. And there's a boundary of the railroad tracks as well as the bikeway, the paved bikeway that goes between Columbia City and St. Helens. You can actually see the property also on the deck of the Elks Club. So it oversees that, and it's a very beautiful area. So, start using this here. So again, this is the members of the advisory committee. And if you have any questions, please interject as I go along.
We actually have a zoologist on
Yes,
the list. That's
yes, and a naturalist. She
cool.
specializes in botany as well.
Yeah.
So I've written a basic purpose of this presentation is to move forward with approval on establishing the Dalton Lake Nature Preserve and begin passive improvements. And this is all according to the agreement, the cooperative management agreement between St. Helens and ODOT in 2009. And I've handed out each one of you a copy of that agreement. Therefore, this would be providing an area within our community that preserves the unique geological and botanical attributes of this area. Establishing this preserve enhances the livability of our community and provides aesthetics, recreational, and educational opportunities for our current and future citizens. And we already have one of our members who's a teacher as well. Patrick Berkeley, has taken several trips with some of our elementary school kids and the parents through the park as a learning experience. So now I'll move on to our current priorities. First one is to procure and install a bike rack at the north trailhead of Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, the Columbia City entrance. And I will be submitting a grant to Cycle Columbia County with the help of Paul Barlow, who owns Barlow Bikes here and is on our advisory committee. And number two would be to procure materials and install wood kiosk in concrete at the north trailhead. And the kiosk would be fabricated by Public Works or a local carpenter. Third is treated wood post with doggy waste bags, because we're going to ask dogs to be on a leash in the preserve and a holder for them so they can grab one of those as they head into the park. And this is a picture and a map, courtesy of Jenny Dimshow from Planning. And the picture I took is actually focused just right across from the water treatment plant to the entrance where the gate is. So on either side of the gate, I put two flags, two red ones and one yellow one on the left. The yellow one on the left is where we'd like to install the bike rack, and that would only hold like a couple to 3 bikes. The red flag on the far right would be where the kiosk would be located. And then to the left of that, it would be closest to the trail, would be the doggy bag holder and post. And the map shows you from north to south on the boundaries of the Columbia River to the east, and the highway and a railroad on the west.
And that road is in the boundary, within the boundary, going down the trail?
Yes, there's an easement, and maybe, Chip, did you want to?
I was involved years ago in the Rutherford Road project and got some of the easements, and Port of St. Helens owned part of it at that point in time, and there were some private landowners. Anyway, I think it's a 60-foot easement, but the city has all the details on that, because the city planner at that time, Howard Cutler, was the one that was deeply involved in it as well. So.
Okay.
So, Lynn, that image that the mayor was referring to, the image we see up there, as you're looking at that, you see, I think, a little chain or a sign across across that trail. Mm-hmm. Now, that's looking straight down to the river.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Just for reference of the green map up there, where the trailhead starts there, and then that view is straight to the river.
Straight down to the river, and then takes a quick right.
Yeah.
So, any other questions?
Well, I just appreciate that you've gotten together with Jenny and you've flagged it off so we can actually physically see it, and you,
Yes.
our associate planner, knows about it. So,
Yes. Oh,
yes.
I've been working a lot with it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay. So, the kiosk that I'm talking about is going to be like the Nob Hill Nature Park kiosk. And I chose that for not only continuity for our parks, but it's also double-sided. So then when people are walking or biking down that paved bikeway, they'll be able to see both sides. And we're going to have postings up there such as we just heard yesterday or Monday, excuse me, at Parks and Trails. A person from Columbia City came, and he had listed about 72 different species of birds
Cool.
that come there and not only migrating, but are there year-round. So that was very interesting. But yeah, so both people walking down the bike path as well as biking will be able to see that kiosk and know that it's now a preserve. So let me change that. So the fourth item would be to procure materials and install signage. And the first item would be a wooden tree and plant identifier signs. And I put 15 down there to start. And they're simple wood signs and shaped, and I'll show you the shapes in a moment. But we have a list of different trees and shrubs and unique species and invasive species that were listed about 6 years ago in a special survey. So we have a lot of interesting things to put in there. The acrylic interpretive markers would be, we're going to start with 6, and those interpretive markers could be for history of that area, which there is a lot of history, and especially on the border, the northern border at the Columbia City, looking off into Columbia City area. And describing pollinators, what they do, and various things about our flora and fauna that are unique to this area. And it's for educational purposes as well. So we've been working with city staff on this signage under the cooperative management agreement. And it's on page 3, it's number 8. And this is all subject to ODOT approval after we get approval from you and where we put this signage.
And then there's a letter to this ODOT, looks like, on behalf of the city.
Yes.
Yep.
So the next page, is there any other questions on that? Okay. The next page shows just examples of the signs, very simple. A waypoint on which trail you're going up, and where actually hopefully an overlook we can access later on. And at the very top is the acrylic interpretive markers that I was talking about as an example. So our current priorities, again, upon approval, and number 5 is to procure metal signs for the kiosk, such as no camping, no fires, dogs must be on leash. Hours should be probably dawn to dusk. Pack it in, pack it out. We'd like to try that first, so that, and if people don't comply, then we have a backup plan for that. 6 would be, we have a private donation of a concrete bench that we could put in a viewing area or maybe at the entrance there by the kiosk. 7 would be to develop a Facebook page for Friends of Dalton Lake Nature Preserve. And we have one actually well underway under SOLVE. The people that participate in that would like to participate as Friends of Dalton Lake as well. And all this would be under the guidelines of the City of St. Helens Friends of the Park program, which was just introduced. And again, we work with SOLVE and other interested groups for cleanup and other projects. Patrick Berkeley, again, the teacher that has already taken a couple of groups through the park, would like to schedule Saturday walks in the preserve with children and adults from local schools and the recreation center as an educational activity. 9 would be a Dalton Lake press release by Crystal Farnsworth. And 10, add a Dalton Lake plan as an agenda item for Columbia City Council meeting as an informative meeting for the city of Columbia City. I'd like to add another thing too. I think it's so important to be respectful of the people that live around Dalton Lake. So they know and are aware of what any changes might be, and if they want to be involved as well. So, and I've got to say, I've received a lot of good comments that it might be a preserve.
Well, a lot of people do not know about this. They just don't. They don't realize that even when you're on that bike path, you do not see the full extent of Dalton Lake.
That's right.
And until you get out there, and that the best view is actually a pretty precarious spot that needs to be addressed and have like a lookout over, because you're looking at lily pads in the spring especially that they just started blooming and coming out, and there is so much life, like the lily pads are moving because there's so many ducks and birds, and there's fish in there, there's frogs. It is really unique. You said how many species? Bird species, 70 something? I think it was 72 or 3.
Let's see, he had 130. Excuse me, 130.
130 different species of birds. So, yeah, it is very unique. I've been there, like I said, I've been there a number of times. I grew up here, but my only concern is that the best spot to view it is very precarious.
Right, and that actually is on private property.
It is.
Yes.
Interesting. Semmeling?
Yes.
Mark Semmelings?
No.
Okay.
So,
I'll have to walk down there with you guys.
yeah, that would be great.
There might be 2.
Yes, that'd be great. We put future plans for approval, so that we have something else besides what I've just described here, so that we can move forward with other plans that we've discussed. And so I made a list here. And number 1 is to acquire access to Dalton Overlook and the beach, and maybe the beach, meaning the southern part of the beach, and with an easement or acquisition. And so number 2 would be an ADA trail enhancement at the south trailhead and north, if we can, on the main trail that you're talking about that goes to Overlook. Number 3 would be Madrona Court Trail and the need of right of access for that one as well. Number 4 would be wood viewing platforms, boardwalk and benches on the Lower East Trail. And we'd have to be careful of that area because it gets very wet sometimes at high water during the winters. But there's already been a couple of sites identified on the west side as well as the east side where we could have a simple bird blind that would be put in there. So 5 is putting into wood bird blinds. 6, building swallow and bat houses to help with mosquito control. Place trash container at the north entry and initiate regular pickup with the city. And that's in the cooperative management agreement plan, and it's number 10 on page 3. 8, assess and clean up the trail from Belton Road as a connection from the Columbia Botanical Garden, because it's just up and down the street from the Botanical Garden. And you can barely make out the trail now. I don't think anybody's used that for a while. I went on a scouting trip. And so the committee and I would like to go down there and see how far we can get and how dangerous it might be. It might be too steep to be using, but I know it was used some years back. So, you were talking about the overlook. So, we've thought about that as well. And so we thought a split rail fence even back from that overlook as a safety feature as well as danger sign. Because,
Split rail is more aesthetic too.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was, yeah, that's what we were thinking. So then number 10 would be to add 3 or 4 designated parking spaces. We were looking at the north end near the St. Helens treatment facility. So, and that's yet to be, looked at again and decided, and that's been discussed. And so we'll be sure and keep you up to date on anything that changes with that as well. And I just want to thank you for your time and consideration of this project. Appreciate it. And we're hoping for your approval
Well,
of this
Lynn,
preliminary concept.
thank you for coming to the council for this presentation. It's very, I think you're very effective bringing your committee members forward, and what a strong committee you have. Wow. I can imagine that you're going to be very effective in accomplishing your tasks. The one question, you probably know what my question is going to be, I think, and it's probably going forward and taking any kind of relief that we can from Columbia City and possibly looking at parking issues on the south end
Yes.
of where the Rutherford Trail is. It's would be across from the dog pound, or not quite directly across from the county roads, but there's a substantial parking lot there on the one side, and there's a bit of area that the county and the city also park on ODOT property, I believe. I believe that's ODOT property. Sue isn't here to confirm that, but they back their cars in, and ODOT doesn't say anything about it. It's just, it's just property that's been scaped out, and it provides a good parking lot. I don't think that putting signs up there for parking would be a wise idea, but somehow that's where I enter the park. I don't drive down to Columbia City. If I'm going to enter the park, I usually ride my bike,
Yes.
and then I cycle through that area. But it would also be good to have what you're proposing for the north end. It would be really nice to have that in the south end at some place. So we have 2 entryways that way, and then also kind of relieve the parking issues from the Columbia City area. So that's just my 2 cents worth. And boy, I really appreciate what you've done. It's probably one of the better presentations we've ever had for an idea. Look what you've done. You've formed a committee. You've gone to the Parks Commission. You've done all the hoops that you should jump through, and this is a wonderful presentation. I'm excited about it.
Oh, thank you. We have discussed that too, different options for the south end, because that seems to be the main trail that people would take to go through to the overlook. But then again, we have to talk to the property owners.
Right.
So, any other statements? Okay. Any other questions?
Have you ever considered using the high school as your builder?
Yes, for the swallow and bat houses.
Also for the kiosks and some of those. The other thing that I would like to see, you talked about having tours on Saturday, but then closing the park after sundown. Have you ever considered limited tours at night, watching the different wildlife that comes out at night? Has that ever been part of your thought process in other programs,
Not at this time. Yeah.
because it's a whole different thing. And under bird blinds, I'd also like to have you think about having bird blinds in the woods, not at the water's edge, because that again is a different type of wildlife experience.
I'll
And-
take that into consideration.
And
Go back.
there's a huge amount of wildlife along the river and a whole lot of different parts of this town, which is quite different. And it'd be nice if the public could get to see it more easily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna agree with Council President Morton that I love that the enthusiasm around this, and it is a beautiful area in our city, within our city. So, and you discovered it and brought it to people's attention.
Well, I'm not the
Many
only one.
locals have known about it for quite some time, but.
But I'm
it-
excited about our future generation. They're going to be
Absolutely.
the inheritors of this.
Yep, yep, and it protects it. It makes it, yes, we need to preserve it.
Yes.
So that's absolutely the case. I get where you're going with this, so, yep,
Thank you.
yep. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So on the Safe and Sober Party, you guys are part of we can just reach out to the high school, right? No. Oh, come on up just for the record. I'm just gonna have you, because we need to know where we're gonna have to send a check to. We do? Okay. All right. So, but anybody who'd like to donate, come on up. We're not just watching. So anybody who'd like to donate, you do not reach out to the high school. You guys have a separate website,
We have a Facebook
a
page.
Facebook page, okay?
But I believe you have to be a member. But the head of the committee are the parents. They're the ones who are planning the thing or the party. But the people that I would reach out to would be Melissa Beasley, who is not here, or Nicole Waite, or Angie Van Dorf.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you guys hit Joey up? I thought they did. I thought they did. Okay, come on up, Joey. We're gonna discuss Connect 58865 Furlock Park Boulevard to City Sewer.
Yes, my name is Joe Kessie, and I'm here to talk about 58865 Furlock Park Boulevard. What we have there is we have a house. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, beautiful house right on the creek there. It's actually a pretty incredible site. That the septic system's failed, and there's no room for repair. There's no options. So it turns this really nice house into nothing, worthless. So we would like to get your permission to connect it to the city sewer system via a
I see it's 300 feet away.
affluent system. Yeah, it's a few hundred feet away, and that's why we would like to use the affluent system. I've talked with Sue about it.
Yep.
Sue knows
It,
more.
yeah, it's
The
a little,
technical.
probably a little over 200 feet away from the public sewer, and just because of the topography, the public sewer can't be extended any further down the roadway
Yep.
because it's sloping off and the sewer's going on the opposite direction. And what it's called is a septic tank effluent pumping system, a STEP system. So they're just basically pumping the effluent to our public sewer system. We have another step system in that same general neighborhood on First Street that connected because of this exact same situation about 20-ish years ago, 15 to 20 years ago. I can't recall exactly the date. And the reason they have to come and ask for permission here is because they can't just it's a private line that they have to run, and because they can't extend the public system down. So at some point in the future, when public sewer is available directly to their property, then they'll have to abandon that system and hook up to the public sewer when it becomes available to that property. And these systems have to be renewed on typically a 5-year basis. The existing system, every 5 years, comes back to council and has the situation changed? No. Is public sewer available? No. So
It'll be,
that has-
it'll be constantly on the queue for every 5 years.
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So when
That's
the
correct.
system does become available,
Yes.
is it mandatory then that the hookup establishes at that time?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
And then I have another question. According to our ordinance, do we mandate that since they are not on our sewer system, but they are on a kind of on our sewer system, do they need to also utilize our water?
I believe they already do.
Okay.
Yes, the city water is available in that whole area. As far as I'm aware, they're on city water
That's
at that location.
Yes.
And now, is that on the north or the south side of the creek? That well,
It would
if I
be
look
on
at the
the-
map, I could see
Be
it.
on the
Yeah, the east side. The creek
it.
runs north and south
Yeah.
there.
So my one concern would be that you just make a little bit larger pipe than one for one house, because if any of those other houses fail on that side, aren't they going to want to tie in with A-Fluid? Because they're not going to have
That's
the
a
same.
potential, but if you get to the point where there are multiple homes, then that's where the point where
It would
you would
require-
have to
yes.
dictate saying,
Now it's time.
now you guys gotta you gotta build a public system. The trick here is at this particular location, the public system is going to go south and east, so it's not a simple, extended 100 feet and boom, and you got a public sewer in front
Sure.
of that. It's going to have to be a whole neighborhood together that will have to
Yeah. Is it a 2-inch
put that
line?
project in.
2-inch line?
I believe the existing service that is on a step system right now, I believe, is a 2-inch pressure line. But it would be sized individually for that location and the head loss that it will take to get from the address of the home to how many feet does it have to
Sure.
rise, et cetera, et cetera.
To push it, the A-Fluid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it could be a smaller service. It would be problematic to put a larger service in, just because one house trying to use a larger
Yep.
pressure pipe, it would not
Yeah.
function
Yeah. exactly.
efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is potential you could if I follow you. Sorry to get out in the weeds.
That's right.
Sorry about that.
Gotta know.
So the ask here is to tie into that and push the A-Fluid. And I'm definitely about, you can't redo the septic that's there because of where it lies. So
Right.
I'm totally with that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Joe, do you have a letter from the county?
Yes, he does. He
Okay.
submitted it.
I had not seen that yet.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes, I do.
Do you want a
Okay,
copy,
perfect.
Sue? You can have my copy.
eventually I'll need that, yes.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Yes, so that's why I kind of, we have a bunch of information and talking to you and in front of us from the county. You did your homework.
Well, I'm all about livability in our community. The sooner, the better.
Thanks.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 3 thumbs up here.
Fantastic. Well,
Yes.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. And,
Yeah.
the address for the St. Helens High School Safe and Sober is P.O. Box 302, St. Helens, Oregon, 97051. So send your money there.
Nice. Thanks, Joe. Yep. Okay, now we're gonna have communications first quarter report. Crystal, you've been very busy, very, very busy.
Unfortunately, so.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm just going to skip right to the activities highlight in this report. So this covers July to September of 2019. The beginning of the report you can read includes all the normal workload indicator statistics and how it's allocated out between departments. So in the last 3 months, we were full into our summer reading program at the library, which they do a wonderful job of doing a lot of activities for both youth and adults. I intentionally worked with Gretchen to be at a majority of those events to get a lot of photographs and video which we did a wrap-up video at the end of the summer. And then it allows us to, a lot of these programs we repeat every so many years. So now we have a good archive of photos and videos for future promotion. We began working in the spring of this year to sort of strategically highlight all of the engineering projects that we had going on around town that included our major infrastructure updates. So that continued into the summer of this year. And working with admin to cover some of our other projects in parks and other areas of town. So we had the installation of our branding and wayfinding signage, the first part of that. The Veterans Memorial updates, which we'll be continuing to advertise now that we have a dedication ceremony that's been planned for November 1st. And then some of the later summer projects that we had through engineering, which was crack sealing, and a highlight of the Pittsburgh Road Reservoir project that we're still working to get corrected. Police held 2 First Thursday programs this quarter. We worked to highlight our Reserve Academy program and worked with CCOM to highlight the dispatch program that we work with. We also updated, we've had a lot of new staff hires with the police department and promotions, so we got new staff photos updated for them, and then they also held a youth academy during the summer. So this is the first youth academy that they have held. You can see the attendees pictured there. So we have some good photos from that if they hold more in the future, we can easily promote that.
Good.
We held our annual 4th of July celebration, Independence Day celebration. So was down here all day for that, promoting that. We, yes, as you mentioned at the beginning of this report, have had a lot of intense police cases that have garnered some additional attention from the Portland metro area as well as local media. So we had 7 major cases in the last quarter and have already had 2 more just in October. So that often involves coming in after hours, handling all the media inquiries from Portland. Sometimes they contact several times. And usually it involves following up with multiple press releases on that. We put out a first annual report for the recreation program, worked with Matt, who did a draft of that, and then revised it to send out to highlight what we've accomplished with the recreation program since launching it. And then we also, so last quarter, which was the spring, worked with Matt and with Ryan at the rec department to create the foundation to start launching our social media accounts for the recreation program. So this quarter, we actually launched those accounts. So we have an Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter account for the recreation program. Nice. And Ryan does the majority of the planning for that and does a lot of the graphic design that you see on there. And then I review it every day and work with him to make sure that it goes out, it looks professional, that we maintain the consistent voice of the city when it appears on our pages. We had our annual 13 Nights on the River concerts that we promoted, as well as did another Movies in the Park series with the recreation program in August that we promoted, and then had our regular monthly e-newsletters that went out. I also worked on setting up auto replies on all of our city Facebook pages. So that's in addition to just the city's main accounts, the police departments, the libraries, and the recreation program, so that people know that we are not monitoring those 24/7, because we get a lot of after-hour contact from the community.
Yes.
Particularly important for the police department's page, just so people know that we're not dispatch. Facebook is not dispatch. We also partnered with a lot of community groups to help promote information and projects that have happened around town. So we highlighted CAT's low-income housing project that they had their grand opening for, the middle school demo and construction and building of a new middle school. Keller Williams just remodeled their building down here and met the historic guidelines to restore some of the original work to the building. And then just some of the impacts to things like Cornelius Pass road closures. We just pushed information out about some closures that will affect people that commute to Portland that are coming up, and the 2020 census. that will be upcoming soon. That's important that we get everybody to participate in. The police department participated in National Night Out, so we helped promote that at the sheriff's office. And then prior to October, we started to get a bunch of media requests for Spirit of Halloween Town. So that's working with national outlets to get them the information that they need so that they can promote it ahead of time so that people can come here in October. We also did a news insert in utility billing that highlighted the Pittsburgh Road Reservoir project and where we're at on that. And then pushed out the fall recreation guide. The library hosted a major genealogy conference that we promoted. And then we shared information about the Campbell Park Improvements Grant that will be coming soon. Worked with Rachel to get some initial updates going on our community development websites so that we removed old links and made sure that the information that's on there right now is at least accurate. And then started promoting Trunk or Treat at the police department. So what we have coming up for this next quarter, which is October through December, will include continued work with promoting Spirit of Halloween Town, which is still going on for the next 2 weekends. We have the Veterans Memorial ribbon cutting that's coming up on November 1st that everybody is invited to at noon. We've already pushed the press release out for that and done a flyer. We had another update meeting this morning before today's meeting, so everything is getting planned for that. We hope that the community comes to really celebrate the partnerships between the city, the VFW, and businesses around town to get that project completed. We will have, I'm working on a winter insert right now for the utility billing city newsletter. That is going to highlight the community development projects that have happened around town, both internally as far as infrastructure updates go, but also some of the private development that's happened. So I have had meetings that I've sat down with Sharon, talked to Sue in engineering, and then sat down with Jacob and Jenny to get some of that information together so that I can start compiling that. And that should be, so far we've done like 2-page inserts. This will actually probably end up being a 4-page insert because we have a lot of projects that have happened this last year. Yep. Wanted to promote that we have a Veterans Day ceremony that will also be coming up on November 11th at our newly dedicated plaza. So at 11 a.m. on 11/11, the community is invited to attend that. So we'll work to promote that as well. The annual tree lighting ceremony and Christmas Ships Parade will be coming up in December. I know I'll be working with Rachel. She's already talked about doing some more intensive updates on the website for community development so that we can start featuring what's going on with the waterfront. And then we, as usual this time of the year, have a lot of holiday safety messaging, bad weather messaging that we get out, where our sandbag areas are, making sure people clean their gutters of leaves before heavy rain events. The spring insert I've already talked to Jenny about for the utility billing newsletter. That will highlight some of the parks projects that we have going on because we have the Campbell Park Improvement Project coming up. We've got the North 5th Street Trail project that's coming up. You just heard a presentation from Dalton Lake. So we have a lot of different things going on in our parks that we want to highlight in the spring when it's appropriate, when people are getting outdoors more. And then, I don't know if you remember, but probably about 6 months ago in my communications report, I talked about Facebook changing its requirements for running ads if you are a government or political entity. They have now again changed the requirements for that. So because the national election is coming up, they are now becoming even more strict with being able to pay to run any kind of ads related to anything from the local level up. So I attended a webinar about those changes because it affects us as local government and reached out to Facebook because the pathway that they have to run ads for government, we don't qualify for because we don't have a .gov or a .mil address to our website, which is the only way that you can register as a government right now. So I'm hoping to hear back from them so that we can meet their requirements for that. But that takes place now. So any kind of ads that we would want to run that highlighted anything that they deemed to be political. So any kind of city council work, we currently won't be able to run ads on those. And then
It did look like he was getting ready to say
know,
something.
I know,
just
like-
kinda-
He was. He was.
I'm going,
Not
oh, no.
you. She
So
paused.
if we have a town hall meeting from our state representatives and they want to utilize either this facility or some, does that quantify for,
yes.
okay. And that is,
Now that doesn't mean that we can't post it to our page.
I
It
see.
just means if you say, hey, we want to contribute $25 towards promoting this so that we can guarantee that people are seeing it when they log on to Facebook, we currently cannot do that.
okay, all
And
right.
won't be able to do that until I hear back from Facebook.
Okay, then I understand the difference between an ad and an announcement, yes, thanks.
One thing good about our website is we actually have a lot of pull without paying because we have so many followers and friends, right? Is that correct? That's how
We-
it works, the algorithm?
Sort of.
Yeah.
If people are engaging in it, yes,
Yes.
then it's seen more in their feed. And yes, we do, for a city of our size, have a pretty substantial following on Facebook.
Yep.
Comparable to a lot of like Portland metro cities.
But still, when you want to push it, you can't right now.
Correct.
Okay.
So a couple months ago, we tried to do a paid ad just to say, hey, here's what happened in the last city council meeting. Here's like, you had somebody come talk about, you donated money, I think, to the food bank or the chamber. I think it was the chamber. It was that meeting. So we had a bunch of stuff happen at that meeting that was like, hey, look at all this good community news stuff that happened at the city council meeting. We were going to throw $25 at it as a paid promotion so people would see it. It was not approved because we didn't meet all of Facebook's ad requirements for politics. So I got approved, which I had to do personally as a person attached to that account. But now they've changed the requirements again, which I'm currently not able to comply with because, again, we don't have a .gov website. So I'm waiting to hear back from them.
I think on that meeting we had donated to the chamber. We had the port show up at that meeting and give a report.
Yeah.
And also,
People interested in a farmer's market.
Yep,
And
there was all
were a couple
kinds
of
of
other
stuff,
things.
yes.
There's a lot of good stuff that happened
yes.
at that meeting.
Well, we had
but-
CSET. We had Chuck Daughtry here in the audience too.
Yeah.
He stepped up too. So, yep.
So, national politics affect us at the local level. And then I don't want to run through any of the social media stats in the back of this packet. You can look through that at your leisure. But I do want to point out, I put a graph in here of our archived records. Kathy, that's on the next page, from our current archiving system. And I reached out to them in July when I saw a massive spike in the number of archive records that we have. So our current plan is for 3,000. When you see in April and May that's usually about 901. That's about what we average the rest of the year. And they did a data poll and confirmed for me. So this spike that you are seeing is mostly from Spirit of Halloween Town traffic. So that gives you an idea of the spike in the number of contacts that we have just on social
That's
media.
almost 3,000 difference. 2,500 easily.
At that peak last month was
Yeah.
6,371. We're
Wow.
currently for this month, halfway through the month, at 3,500.
Wow.
So it's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
Tina mostly manages the Facebook page. I do all the Twitter and Instagram, but on weekends I'm here trying to help her answer questions and DMs that we receive. And you can tell from that difference,
Well, even when
there
you look
is
at-
a lot.
When you look at April and May, and you know people are starting to look around June.
June.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to see that drop in November, back to our normal average. And then for anybody interested on the next page, those are our handles for our new social media accounts for the rec program. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
That's great.
I just want to make a comment on, internally, we've been looking at, we have, our web address is
Very long,
ci.helens.or.us, which was kind of the industry norm 20 years ago or longer. A lot of them have updated to more modern formats of .govs and had some internal circulation, some polls that would probably get us in compliance with Facebook as well as update our.
I'll tell you what, it'd be easier to give somebody your email.
Yeah.
What is it? SIST dash Helen's.
And it was the for decades it's been the kind of the go-to.
So
default.
we did purchase St. Helens-Oregon.gov. We have it. It is quite a process for us to change everything. So I'm going to talk about in my department report some IT updates.
Yep.
So as that happens, we will start to go down that road. So we've already purchased a .gov address. It's just a matter of implementation.
Good job, Crystal. You've been very, very busy. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Discuss request from Shoestring Community Players. Okay, this kind of got tabled for a little bit there. I wish we had a full council here. We got some Shoestring players. Would you guys like to come up? Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
You guys have been busy this month.
We're tired. Just a little bit. We're not done.
You want to state your name for the record, please?
Shannon Veriwick, I'm the president of Shoestring.
Yep.
Margaret Trenchard Smith, I do public relations.
And Kathleen Grant, I'm the treasurer.
Okay. So I know that we had just some discussion, and we're hoping you guys would show up, and here you are. So this is great. About basically kind of the financial, we wanted to make sure that you guys are going to be self-sustaining, and I think that's why we're asking you to be here. I know we're definitely wanting to help you guys out. I do know that much. So I don't know what that looks like right now. Like I said, I apologize. Councilor Locke said he'd be late, and Councilor Carlson had other arrangements today. So I was looking at what you guys have proposed to us, and was looking at, I don't know, the Christmas program. That's kind of what I was thinking about. Maybe we could sponsor kind of in a collaboration with you guys. That was just my feeling on it. I don't know where the rest of these guys are, because we don't talk like that other than in here. So how do you guys feel about helping out with a program? Christmas time, City of St. Helens and Shoestring Players present. I don't know, or sponsored by City of St. Helens.
Uh-huh.
So, go ahead.
Somebody reflect on it, because so my mind is just open to I don't know what, but I'm open. But somebody explain to me what your proposal is.
So, yeah. So Kathy had asked us to make sure I could come or whatever. So I brought a budget of the Christmas show as an example.
You did?
I did.
That's crazy. That's what I'm thinking, and that's what you
So,
bought.
do you want to take some of that?
Good.
Almost like it's meant to be.
Exactly.
I don't know how many is there. You might have to.
Let's go ahead and if you got enough to leave the counselors. So
Is it the same thing you provided? Because I have it electronically here.
No, this one I just printed today.
I can share this.
thank you.
I'm directing this particular show, so I went through and made sure my budget was up to date.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you.
Here,
You got a piece.
Here,
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
I got another one.
Okay. That's pretty awesome that you have this one for an example, because
So we have, this is our typical budget layout that we use for all of our productions. I highlighted it in yellow for theater for our price point and our average seat size because of that's in this particular location down here on South First.
Yep.
Whereas our musicals would be held at the auditorium at the high school.
Yep.
So that price point would be different because those are significantly more expensive to
Sure.
produce.
Yeah. Yep.
Then you see in the column, royalties, orchestration, et cetera. Those are costs that would be incurred for the show. Royalties, orchestration, music scripts, those type of things are usually set in stone by the royalty companies that we have to pay that royalty fee to. And those vary depending on the shows, of course. And then props, costumes, makeup, lighting, all of those are flexible based off of really what the show needs are. This particular show is very prop and costume heavy, so then typically there's more of an expense there. And it isn't that we bring brand new everything in every time we do a show. We recycle as much as we can. That's what the storage of our costumes and props are. But there are some things, depending on the show, that are show specific, that you have to purchase or make, or, you know, that kind of thing. So the other highlighted in there is our theater expenses. That is our monthly expense that we have that is in there just to be in there. It's $2,000 a month rent, $700 is our flexible on our utilities, because depending if we turn the heat on or whether we have the air conditioner on, those type of things. So that utility bill will vary. So it might be a little bit less or a little bit more on that $700 mark. So so if you see at the very bottom, if we have our theater expense included into our total budget, we would already be losing money before we open the door. If I take out our theater expenses, then we make money. So if we don't look at our monthly expense, all of our shows are making money. They're paying for themselves plus bringing in extra, but it's not enough. We're not quite making it. And I think a lot of it has to do with not for the lack of interest in our community for our theater company, because we wouldn't be here for 37 years if we didn't have the interest.
That's right.
But we're in a new home where we've been living in a storage unit for the last, I don't even know how many years, so long I can't recount, that we're trying to make that adjustment to like being a new business where you don't have those regular customers in every day yet. We're still that new kid on the block, even though we've been here for a while, but first time in a home for a while.
Yes.
So we're trying to gather those.
So you're asking us for a housewarming gift.
Yeah, helping hand. 'Cause we have put on a significant amount of shows as we've been in there for a year. We've offered workshops. We have a gal that is wanting to start theater teaching classes in January, and we have more shows. We have a gentleman that's looking at a proposal for a summer musical. So, and the thing that we find difficult for being homeless was that we could always find a location to perform the weekend that we needed to perform, but we didn't have rehearsal space. So having home gives us a place for rehearsal space, for us a place to experiment and grow, build our set, where I'm not building it in my driveway and rehearsing in my driveway, where we've done that a lot.
Yep.
So we are basically asking the city to help us out so that we can stay down here, so that we're in the downtown neighborhood that we're
It
in.
looks like it's 5 shows for December that we would be helping support. It looks like one of them will be around the Christmas ships.
Yep.
And add to
Add
the
to
holiday
the stuff that's going on.
festivities.
Yep.
Yes. Councilor Locke, welcome.
So I'm not sure if there's any questions you have on this or us as an organization, just feel free to ask.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this forward. Now I have a starting point to
Right.
kind of ask some questions. One is that you're now in a new location, and what did that do? And this is hopefully a sustainable location for you. Is that correct? Is that the idea?
That's
that
the
you want to stay there?
Yeah, that's the idea.
When you went there, was there any talk about, in your group or with your board, about raising the ticket prices, say 20-25% to help fulfill that gap? Was there any talk at all, or did you stay with the same ticket prices that you've had in the past?
These are increased. Since
They are
we moved
already
in this
increased?
location, yeah. Yeah, we went up.
Could you see increasing them more?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then my fear is that, well, we're in Columbia County. They always want something for free.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's
does
our
happen.
fear.
That does happen quite a bit
And
around
we
here.
don't want to push away the families that want to bring all of their children, but maybe they could only afford to bring the husband and wife. So we want to make sure that we're trying to find, but we're not Portland prices by no means.
Right.
When we know that, but we're trying to like not traumatize our ticket buyers either by jumping up so drastically.
Yeah.
So we're trying to find that happy medium.
And sponsors, do you happen to have sponsors by chance?
We do have sponsors. Currently, I didn't bring that printout.
Oh, that's okay.
But currently, we've, since we renew kind of in the late summer to go around for the year, so I think we've got 10 right now that have currently paid up, and we have some invoices out for another 5 or 6 people so far.
Right.
And then we picked up another sponsor just as October started.
Okay.
So any of those sponsor prices range from $100 up to $1,000.
And then I think my one of my other concerns was, do you have any have you ever applied for grants through the state performing arts groups or whatever?
Yeah.
And how is that? How's that going?
Well, we just received one.
We received a $500 grant from the Columbia County Cultural Coalition.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then we have a couple other applications that we're in process of filling out. They're just not due yet.
I see.
So, and we've received grants in the past. We've received a $2,000 one from the
CCCC.
Yeah, okay. I'm
Yeah,
terrible
and
with
you know that's kind of what sometimes what the city doesn't rely on, but it's always a shot in the arm for a one-time fix like this. So I appreciate you coming forward and sharing these figures with us and sharing where you're at with your organization, and we do value it. We value it
we
a
are
ton.
100% ran by volunteers. No one gets paid, so we are all volunteers to be in this organization. So it's very sustainable, I think.
And hopefully we might appear to be hard on you with some questions, or especially myself, but that's my duty.
Right.
Yep. Well,
And-
even
and
one of
that's-
their members,
yeah.
Patrick Berkeley, showed up and he said, "Well, I'm kind of a skeptic on that government should do this, but I'm in favor of it."
Yeah.
That's exactly his words.
And he just finished directing a show in the spring, so yeah, he's in the Haunted History Show this weekend,
So,
actually.
so
yeah.
my sense is thanks for coming forward and explaining this, because it helps me so much to make an appropriate decision now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Keith, you have anything?
I know you arrived late.
Keith, your mic needs to be on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Yes. You'll be hearing from us.
Okay.
For
thanks.
sure. Okay.
And thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Those were his words. It was funny. All right. So, review assistant city administrator job description. John.
All right, let me get to it here.
Yep.
So this is something I've been thinking about internally for quite some time. The role of the finance director, at least as long as I've been here, has provided a tremendous amount of support to not only the financial aspects of running the city and in working with department heads, but also in just doing special projects and troubleshooting and kind of getting in and fixing, working with the courts, and that's kind of grown. With Matt's role as far as our current finance director duties, he still is a financial resource to departments, but he's kind of extended that into starting a park and rec program, doing all these special project kinds of things. So this is an attempt to create a job description which, from an organizational perspective, doesn't really change the organizational tree as much, as far as the position still reports to the city administrator. Under that, it's the primary function is to be the finance director first. The additional capacity in the position is to continue, to serve support to other department heads and other special projects that that are directed from you to me,
Yes.
through the city to complete and execute. So it just gives a certain amount of credibility to be just a finance director and the appearance that he's working outside of his lane when he's really not. And it's just
Yep.
right. So
So long and short of it is,
it's
the justification is we have a lot of projects going on that we've all implored you to get done, and this is one way of delegating some of those responsibilities because there is a lot, and Matt has the capability and probably is the best fit amongst our staff.
well, the position is specifically created to be the finance director first.
Yes. Yep.
So this is just the creation of that position. It's not an assignment of the duties quite yet. We get the job description that goes in.
Yes. Yep.
Counting that it's on tonight for approval. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions?
I see an awful lot of conflict of interest. Mainly, I want a watchdog over the finances different than somebody who's planning them. I agree on the responsibilities, but I'd like them in two different people as compared to the same person. Just for transparency.
So one thing I can speak on, I guess that I'm going to jump in there, is that we are audited every year, and that the audits always come back with awards most of the time. Is that correct? Yes. And that I don't feel that that is a conflict, in my opinion, with somebody knowing the budget and implementing projects along those lines. They kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Under the direction of us, period, point blank. We are the final say. So we play a huge role. Even though we don't micromanage, we play the biggest role in the city government.
Well, I'll piggyback on that just a bit, but the way I see it, there's a 40-hour week, and I know that we had a finance director who had to undo a lot of past records in the past and redo them. And he was down here burning the midnight oil, and those 40 hours went to 60 hours. And he did an amazing amount of work. And I think when our new finance director came along, then things seem to be much more efficient, and they seem to work much more in a much more functional way. The efficiency and the effectiveness, I think, went way up. And I think the 40-hour week is down to possibly a 25-hour week. And this is just my perception. So you don't need to weigh on, the finance director doesn't need to weigh in on this unless he really wants to, or unless someone else wants to ask the question. But I think that in the makeup of our staff, that that our finance director is looking for more challenges other than just the finances. We're a small town, and I think he's on top of it. I think that it's inevitable that he does some other things, and that was reflected on somewhat building the recreation program and being involved in that, and being involved in some other kinds of issues in beautification and functionality of our of this room that we're in right now. So I kind of differ, Mr. Topaz. I like what you say, but I kind of differ in my opinion because of the makeup of our staff the way it is, and the responsibilities that they have. And that's what this addresses.
Well, my discussion is not the ability or the effects that have happened. It's the transparency that the person who knows most about the finances is designing something rather than being double checked. I'm more interested in the double check needing a person as things go along, not the yearly audit. That's really where I'm coming from, not the ability and the fact that one person can do all of this. I really would like, I would feel more comfortable if I had somebody double checking these programs rather than the person who finances them doing the programs. That's really where I'm coming from.
I think what you're speaking to is controls. The city has a number of financial controls that, it's hard to speak in the microphone this direction and look at you, sorry. But, cross-checks, testing, sampling, those types of things that are part of our daily processes. They're pretty, we have them both in financial policy, we have them in practice, and it's one of the realities of being in a smaller jurisdiction where you have one person doing one single job. We have to kind of spread those duties out at the the lower levels in the organization. The people that are managing cash, they cross-check each other. There's some things happening at those levels too. So, but you also said conflict and transparency, which we're a little bit concerning about.
Yeah.
If there's a lack of transparency, I think it's. I don't know that we've ever been more transparent than right now, the way things are set up, but financially, and just the general conflict of if that's what your definition of conflict regarding this position is. But
Conflict was basically an outside view of what's happening, not what we know inside.
Right.
And what happens in 5 years when we're a different group of people. Obviously, this is going to be a continuing position.
I think
it can be or not.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
A
where
lot of positions that
my
aren't-
concern is.
Well, this isn't set in stone forever because any council can change anything they want at any time. So there's that flexibility built in terms of time. So what happens 5 years from now is up to that council to determine what happens 5 years from now.
Change comes awful hard.
So, yeah, it does, and people don't like it. So that's the bottom line. And we are a changing city. We are not a little city anymore. First and foremost, this job description, he is our financial director. It will not detour him from any way, shape, or form, which may be a 40-hour week. It may require that he be a 40-hour week on certain weeks. Maybe he's out doing other projects a little bit more certain times a year. We know budget season. He's going to be enthralled in that budget for at least a month and a half, getting everything prepped and ready, and then go through the process. That's not going to change. That's not what this is about. This is just about another reference for a job description that he is definitely qualified for, and I think we'd be foolish to not allow him the ability to have this opportunity through our city, because he may go elsewhere, is my fear. So we definitely have a need for it, that's for sure, with all the projects going on. So all this is about right now is a review for that. We're not.
You're not filling position.
Yep, we're not filling the position. This is just creating it.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so that being said, let's move on. Okay, review final plat for Forest Trail subdivision. Jacob.
Thank you.
Yep.
So as you probably recall, when we have a subdivision, the final step is that final plat. And that's the document that gets recorded, cuts that property up. Here is an example of the Bailey subdivision. This is not the final plat document itself, but just to remind you of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a very complex one.
Yep.
Because of the wetlands, the BPA easement at the north, the awkward geometry. But hey, we're at the end. And so tonight on the agenda is authorization of mayor's signature on the final plat. In this case, the timing is a little different because I don't have the final plat to be signed in my office. In fact, I have the second draft here in the file. And there's a few other things that are still in process. And let me talk about those. Because normally when I'm here, I'm saying, everything's done, let's sign it. But Rich is concerned about his daily interest. And so, given the loans he has to develop the property, and the next time the council meets is November 6th, which is 3 weeks away. And what I'm trying to do is buy time in the event that all that stuff is done. Now, at the time that I wrote this memo, some of it is completed. So the final draft, that's being worked on. That's well in process. The homeowners association documentation is extraordinarily close, very, very close. There's some contractual stuff that needed to be done in relation to the wetlands. And that wasn't required before the final plat. It was actually something required before any building permit was issued. But that is complete now, and it shows that they're moving. And then the appeal period's not even over for the final plat. That's tomorrow. But 5 p.m. tomorrow, I doubt we're going to see an appeal. But the council meets when it meets, and you kind of have to work within that time frame. And so, what I'm seeing, if the council is comfortable with granting a conditional authorization of the mayor's signature pending, some of these last things being done, so that if I have that, I can call Rick up and say, hey, Rick, it's not November 6th, but I got this thing ready for you to sign. I don't think there's a lot of risk for us at this point, especially as far as long as it was.
Very little things that need to be checked off.
Yeah,
When you explained it to me the other day.
And if I was uneasy about it, I probably wouldn't have whipped up this memo. And if you note the date of this memo, it was last Friday. Earlier in the week, I wasn't sure, but then some stuff happened. I'm like, oh, okay, no, I think we can ask for this request. So anyways, that's the story behind it, and that's why I'm asking for the authorization tonight for a document that we will eventually have sometime after. The other option is just waiting till we have everything.
I hate to hold somebody up on when they got funding out, and if it requires closing a loan to flip it into another loan of development to whatever LLCs, how they work. Obviously, there's a need for the builder, and we are often stated by outside entities that we're not builder friendly, which is not the case. Come down and talk to us. Let us know what we're doing wrong or how we can help you, and we will try to assist you if we can, if it's legal. And this is one of those ways we could do it legally.
Jacob, is there precedent here? Because I know in my experience, I've in the past working with councils have done this many times. Have we done these conditional approvals?
I think so. I would have to. I mean, I can't remember a particular example, and do you remember one?
I thought we did with Elk Ridge because that had been strung out.
Elk Ridge 6? No. Yeah, Elk Ridge 6, because the homeowners association. If we put Elk Ridge 6 before it was done, the council would have remembered that because this room would have been full.
There was something.
But there may have been some other
Yeah,
one.
there was something in, probably within the last 12 to 18 months. I recall this similar discussion.
It's just,
about,
a lot of projects
we're kind of
going on, and it
waiting
all
for,
starts to blend.
yeah.
But I don't think we're setting a precedence. I mean, every project's different. And, it's starting January, when we accept the final plat is going to change given some state law. And so it'll be even more different then. A lot of it depends, are we comfortable with it in its state? And we're not saying, oh, we could just sign it now without this stuff being done. We still want the stuff to be done.
You get any pushback from any citizens or anyone in our community about this project? at this point.
At this point, yeah, I'm glad you added that last part because, you know, as with any subdivision, there's always neighbors who are concerned. But no, not at this point. We did get some response after the final plat went out. One neighbor was concerned about water pressure, and that seemed to be unrelated to this development. And then another neighbor was concerned about the stormwater infrastructure being completed. And so we received their letter, we checked into it, and we even talked to them. And it was more of a general concern, not a we don't think they did something concern. So I have not heard any concern about the development at this nearly complete stage.
Well, I'm very favorable to this for, efficiencies in economics and costs and that type of thing that you so described. My concern is that all the safeguards are in place for this council and the staff. So if you can sign off on that, yes, and it sounds like you are.
Yeah, and if you look at this memo, I'm talking about the things that are pending, and I'm not going to get the signature until I know everything's done, because I don't like being thrown into the fire.
Yeah. Well, this is the same talk I'd have with you behind closed
Oh,
doors,
sure. Yep.
okay? But I'm
Yep.
having it here in the council chambers, so.
And it's an understandable concern, but in this case,
Exactly.
I think we're okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's okay.
So it's an item for tonight, so I just want to make sure that you're
Yep.
aware of that.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Request from Art Cultural Commission to decommission art bench and relocate another. Margaret?
This bench is called the Big Stump, and like most items that are made out of wood, they're just hard to maintain. We've had a similar challenge with some of the wooden things that are in the collection, like the wooden sculptures in McCormick Park and the dog here in the waterfront there. And this one has gotten to the point that it is the artist has actually asked for it to be decommissioned. And so I'm asking the council's permission to have this particular piece removed. And there is another bench.
Kathy's gonna-
This one is called Black Waters, and it's in front of the library. And if you go to the next picture, you get a better sense of where it is. There's no real pathway to it, and everybody thinks it's a place to smoke. And even though we have signage posted, and smoking is only allowed in the city right-of-way. So if you'll go to the next picture, we have this place in the courtyard that was created when a concrete extension from the building was removed prior to the building being painted. That the concrete extension used to be a feature that you could climb out on from inside the library. But years ago, before my time in fact, that doorway was changed into a window, and the feature was just kind of left unmoored. So it looked like a boat. So now we have this, and there's nothing in it. And so we felt like moving that bench into this place would create a sheltered space where somebody could go and read for the book. That would be an accepted activity at the library. So that is my recommendation. Relocate the Black Waters bench and to decommission and remove the big stump.
Well, I propose we give a head nod to decommission the stump and move the. Yeah?
Do it.
Yeah?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it is the head nod, but it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing that also should be mentioned about that bench is, and the city's crew has cleaned out some of the bushes, it becomes the home for some unwanted people at night. And it's good that the bench goes inside.
Okay.
I should add that, Sue and I were just talking about it. The Parks Department has really done a lot of work lately at the library, and we got, as Steve mentioned, a report of some concern there with all the heavy foliage, and so they came and selectively removed some of the trees and brought the limbs up. So it's a very clear view when you drive through the parking lot or from the street. It looks, I think, the best it's ever looked. They really did a lot of work. And in addition to that, we have a group of volunteers led by Lynn Pettit, by the way, who's in the Friends of the Library. And she and her husband have come over and done a lot of edging and weeding. And so the library, between the work of the Parks Department and this Friends group, the landscaping is looking really nice.
Okay, so yeah, you got the approval. Okay, department reports. Chief Greenway.
Just want to tell everybody, the council, the city, staff, and especially the community, thank you for all the support. Last couple weeks been kind of trying for our community, but on behalf of the men and women of the St. Helens Police Department, thank you all. It means a lot. Everybody's doing well, and that's all I can say about that. But again, our wholehearted thank you to everybody. The outpouring of support and concern has been at times overwhelming, and it just shows you as a community when we hit some challenging times, we all come together. So, and it reminds us not to lose focus on that. But that's all I got. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Sue.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, goodness.
I wanted to mention on the agenda this evening for approval is a boom lift purchase. And if you didn't read the little report with that, we did originally want to look at replacing the entire boom truck that we have, the lift truck that we have, just because it's old. It takes a lot of annual certification maintenance to keep it up to snuff so that we can continue to use it. And it's also very large and bulky. But we had anticipated replacing that piece of machinery this year. But once we started looking at really what we needed that for functionality-wise, we decided, or the mechanics decided, to look into a much smaller, self-propelled unit, which there is
Like
a photo in
like
your
a tow
packet.
behind?
Pardon?
Like a tow behind, maybe?
It's
Yeah.
not a tow behind. It is
Okay.
self-propelled. It would be trailered from job to job, but it can. Oh, sorry, Margaret. It can go into much smaller locations. It's much more versatile. Can be used for many more applications than the large boom truck. A truck could be used for, and it's also conveniently about half the price of what we had originally budgeted for this piece of equipment. So. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, and if you had any questions about what that would be for. But obviously, we use the boom truck for a lot of things. The Parks Department uses it for tree trimming. We use it for all the decorations and everything that we do throughout the year for all different activities, banners, all different types of maintenance purposes. So it's a very useful tool for all of our departments. They've used things like that over at the wastewater treatment plant. It gets a lot of use, and this will be able to be used quite a bit more.
Yeah, and my concern has always been for that boom truck going into places like McCormick Park to do some tree trimming or to do those kinds of things, and the tracks, especially this time of the year.
This time of the year, it's very difficult.
Exactly, tears a lot of stuff up. This makes a lot of sense with the amount of parkland and public spaces that we have. This makes a tremendous amount of sense. Thank you.
Yes, and some of the tighter spaces. So we're excited to move forward with that. And then just really, we've just been doing so many projects over the summer and into the fall that it's hard to even come up with a list of them, but just, some of the highlights that they've been working on. They're starting to install the new wayfinding signage. They're doing all the finishing touches over at the Veterans Plaza, all of the new improvements that they've been doing. There's so many private developments going on that keeps all of our guys busy because we have to be there at certain times when they're hooking up water lines, when they're doing new connections, anytime they need water valves turned on and off, connecting to our existing sewer. And of course, our inspector is running around to all of those places all of the time, but there's subdivisions, there's water and sewer extensions, the new veterinarian's office that's going in over there between St. Helens Street and Columbia Boulevard. The improvements, the frontage improvements that CCMH just completed over on McNulty Way. The apartment complex that's going in over on Matson and McBride Streets. There's going to be there's public improvements throughout that project, but also there'll be street and sidewalk improvements on all three sides of that project. The middle school continues to go on. Of course, there's the Gable Road project that continues on, and hopefully Tristan Wood from the County Public Works Department now instead of just Road Department, and I will be at the council sometime in the next couple of months to give you a just kind of an overview presentation of that project and what we think it means to the whole community. Jacob talked about Rich Bailey's subdivision over there off of Sykes Road. That's involved all of our staff at different times. Crack sealing project that's just finishing up. Our guys that did the little culvert project over on North Vernonia. Of course, and they're also continuing to do the Highway 30 landscape strip. Those are just highlights. There's a million other things, but I don't want to take up that much time.
Lots of little calls, yes.
Yeah, it's just been a busy summer, and we're continuing to be busy into the fall. So.
Guaranteed to be busy in the fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we got leaves coming down, and then we got Halloween Town, and there's never a dull moment. So I just always want to invite any of the council as well, if you have any questions or any concerns or anything, to always, I'm always available. Just send me a note, stop by my office or whatever if you have any questions about any of our projects or if you want some attention to anything.
All right. I think he's talking about that.
Or did Rachel want to talk about that? Okay.
Anything else, Sue? Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Yes. Margaret.
The big event happening at the library is Tuesday night. We have author Amy Stewart. She's got a series of books about called The Kopp Sisters, K-O-P-P. They were historical figures, the most prominent of which was a woman who was the first deputy sheriff in the United States. So her stories are loosely based about these sisters. And she's a Portland-based author who's new to Portland from Eureka, California, but she has a national presence. I mentioned this once before, but we surely hope that the community will turn out for this event. That's Tuesday, October 22nd at 7. Quickly, I wanted to report about a few things. Crystal mentioned something about the census. I have been contacted by the Census Bureau, as have all libraries, because the hope is that people will respond online this year. They're reaching out to libraries to be a place where people can come and respond to the census. And so I'll be back in touch with them in December. They've offered to come out and give our staff training so that we can better assist people who have questions about filling out the census. They'll provide us with a lot of promotional materials, posters, and that kind of thing as well. And I'm considering dedicating one of the public computers to be a station where it will be available at all times for people to do that. So we'll learn more in December when they come out to meet with us. Also, November is National Novel Writing Month, and as always, our municipal liaison for that program is Becky Bean, who is a freelance writer in her other life, and she has been running that program for 5 or 6 years now, and they have a lot of events planned throughout the month. One of the things they do is have a kickoff event where they show all the writers how the website for National Novel Writing Month works, some of the benefits of being part of the program. I guess they get discounts on writing software and things like that. And then midway through, they have a late night write where they stay in the library till midnight writing on their next great American novel. And then when it's all over, they have a thank goodness it's over party. But basically, we sponsor writing space for them, and we provide coffee and tea, and they come and have just a quiet time where they're all writing and in support of each other and their efforts. It's a very quiet event. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that I met recently with Teresa Knight with the Columbia Arts Guild and Les Waters with the Columbia County Museum Association. And we've planned some collaborations for next year, either sponsorship of visiting exhibits, shared display space for programs that they're having, and opportunities to marry some of what they're doing with what the library's doing. So I'm real excited to build that three-way relationship, and a lot of its focuses around the shared display space in the lobby that the Arts Guild helped get the grant for and fund. And so we're just, I think, going to see more and more of those events. So I'm pleased to have them as partners. And that's it.
Thank you, Margaret. Matt?
So I do have a few things for you.
Nice mic, by the way. Just saying.
It's going to get replaced here pretty soon. On that note, the IT group that's going to come in and redo all the audio and put in the speakers and everything, they will be in here the last part of November. So you will have to live through one more meeting of me talking like this and other issues that we have. But in December, everything should be working perfectly fine and be up to the 21st century. The one thing I would like to get consensus from the council is that obviously, coming up is the bike build, and they have requested to rent out the recreation center. That's usually something we charge for. I'm assuming that I can get a general consensus that we're not going to charge them a fee to use our facility for that event. So I just wanted to get either a head nod okay from the council that it's okay not to charge those fees to the organization that does the bike building.
Yes, for the record.
Okay.
Yes, Kathy.
Thank you.
And Doug said yes.
Yes.
And Keith said yes.
All right, so we're good. On tonight's agenda is a new contract for the municipal court judge. Myself, John, and Amy Lindgren, and our attorneys have worked out a new contract that is somewhat similar to what was already written. Basically, the change is that every single year the contract is automatically renewed unless we tell her otherwise in February. And so that means that every single year I don't have to come to you to get authorization for a signature to basically renew her contract every year. The city council still has the authority to end that contract at any time with letting her know before February that it won't be renewed in July. But this removes that hoop jump through. She will still come to the meetings for the reports every 6 months, like what was discussed the other time she was here. And the other change in the contract is an annual increase that is set in the contract and tied to the CPI. So that varies depending on the type of kind of economy we have. Usually it's between 1 to 2.5% around those times, but it's a yearly average CPI that is just built into the contract. And so it just helps alleviate some of the hoops that I have to jump through every single year for that contract. Do you have any questions about the contract that is on the agenda for tonight that I can answer? Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention is at your next meeting, you're going to have in your packet a request for proposals for a new IT service company. We have gotten to a point with CenterLogic where we feel it is best to look elsewhere. And so now that we have our IT specialist on board, he's been able to dive in a little bit deeper than at a staff level we have. We have also brought in an outside company to come in and give us an overview of some of the Band-Aids and things that they would do differently, or ideas of where things could have been done a little better. So we have contacted CenterLogic and let them know that we're going to go out for an RFP, and you will have that in your next council packet for approval at the next meeting. Any questions about that? Okay. I only got a few more things. The quarterly municipal court report is in the administration section of the council report. The biggest thing that I wanted to highlight in that is the chart that shows the clearance rate. That is basically a calculation of how many cases we bring in versus how many cases we close. Because we're going through a transition right now with our court software into a new program, that gives the opportunity for our court staff to really go through all of the history that has been in there for 20 plus years and really clean everything out. So our clearance rate for the last 3 or 4 years has been around 105, 96, 92, 105. This last quarter was 181%. So that means that there were a lot of cases on the back end that we never knew about or were found, so to speak, when going through this process. So we're able to clear out a lot of that. So that speaks very highly of Melanie Payne and April Messenger and our court department, who have really been able to go through and clean everything up. So almost done. I'm going to hand out to you, Kathy, you can keep one as well. This was something that was presented to the Parks Commission on Monday, which is a Friends of the Parks and Trails program. This is not on your agenda for approval or anything. It will be at the next meeting, but I wanted to make sure you had enough time to take a look at it, review it, give myself or any of our staff that's helped build this, which would include Sue Nelson and Jenny Dimshow as well, that helped put this together. And if you want to take some time to review it, give us any thoughts before the next meeting. The only thing that needs to be adjusted from staff's opinion here is on the front page at the very bottom. There is a little insert of the person and number who is going to kind of look over these Friends of the Parks programs on an administration level. So just give some thought in the future of who that person should be, so we can put their name there and start diving that, having those discussions. But this is for you to review over the next couple weeks. So let us know if you have any questions on that.
Looks good.
On that note, I wanted to bring up a small subject that has kind of come up to get the council's opinion. We have a community member that wants to set up a nonprofit for, similarly to our Friends of the Parks and Rec program. And they want to accept donations and do work on this specific park. It's the Botanical Gardens. And they have specifically told me that their idea is to raise money to additionally purchase land as well to expand the Botanical Gardens. I wanted to maybe not come to a determination or a conclusion tonight, but at least get your thoughts on that. I have some reservations just from a financial steward point of somebody setting up a nonprofit doing work on behalf of the city on city property, but I have no, or whoever the finance director would be in the future, would have no knowledge of what monies was spent, what was taken in. So creating some guidelines like this program could aid in that decision. Like I said, it's nothing that we have to have a huge discussion about, and maybe at the next work session I can bring back some additional information, as well as I think Doug Councilor Martin has talked with the person, I think, who was going to create that, as well as maybe Sue or Thad to give any thoughts or opinions on the works that are being done.
I think now is probably an appropriate time to weigh in on this, and this whole idea of forming a policy of what is a friends of. What's a friends of mean? And I asked the Parks Commission to think about that and get some of their opinions back, and those opinions came to staff. Staff generated this this piece, and it's kind of skeptical of people coming in from, in a sense, from the outside. And how far from the outside? Well, that it doesn't matter. They come in from the outside and create a system in a park for that kind of overrides what we have as a policy. Well, we now have a policy, and in looking at this of what the limitations, what the parameters are of a friends of park, and it comes back to under city control. Well, that necessarily doesn't. Hopefully, that protects us from groups coming in and saying, "Hey, we are friends of the Botanical Park, and we're here to raise money," and there's no, and get contributions, and that seems to be where that was headed for a bit. And to get the contributions, and then it's a bad reflection on the city, because it's a city park. And so that's why that's what was my concern, and why I generated this idea that we need a policy for friends of, and what their limitations and what their powers are, and do they overtake a park, and do they govern a park? And my feelings are that this will help us protect our parks with city jurisdiction. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell. So looking at this, I think I was going to reserve this for my report. I just want to make certain that when there's activities taking place under friends of, or under volunteers doing work in the park, that it doesn't get too bureaucratic. And I think the staff heard me pretty loud and clear about that they don't have to jump through so many hoops that it's almost impossible to go pull ivy or clean trails or whatever. And so I'd like to make that certain, that in this policy, that's an efficiency that's been looked at.
We already have kind of a pattern for that with the Friends of the Library. They're a 501c3, and we have a MOU with them. The library does.
So my concerns are not so much with the parks, but the surrounding public space, which would be roads and stuff like that, because I know that it's happened in the past that they plant things on right-of-ways, and then they expect that that's never going to be a right-of-way again, because there's now trees planted in the middle of the road, or whatever the case would be. So that's my only concern about it.
It's a good concern.
I just think it's a little bit of a slippery slope, personally. I mean, so I can go start up a nonprofit for Campbell Park if I chose to.
That's the idea.
I mean, that's where
the
this goes
intention
with it.
of
It's different having
the
just a library, but when you have multiple parks where you can just all of a sudden say, "Well, McCormick Park's the best used park. It's got the veterans, it's got ball fields, park department's there." We'll start a nonprofit around that.
Yeah, the red light.
People don't know exactly what.
This protects us from that.
The red light to me was when this person said that they were interested in purchasing some of the surrounding
Yes.
properties. And
I have another take on that. If I came to you and I says, I just bought this piece of property for $1 million and I'm going to give it to you, city, as a park, that's nice. I had $1 million. I did it. But now I'm going to say, I'm going to form a group that's going to raise money to do something for the park. The first time is basically I just walked in the door and said, here's a hunk of ground and here's a park. It's now yours. There's no kind of who's doing what. The minute you have somebody saying, we're going to give you a park, but we're going to have a say how it's run, that gets to be a little iffy. At what point do we call this nonprofit a gift or an assistant. And that would be the legal part that if they want to give it to me and raise money for it, I have no problem, provided I control it. I mean, they put in all the water lines and planted the trees and did all that. They said, here, it's yours. It's mine. Good. But I don't want you to say, but you got to keep trimming the trees on the left side only, or whatever they're going to tell me to do. That'd be the question I'd have with anybody wanting to do something for the city in the way of parks.
Anything else, Matt?
Of course. Just
He said I was almost done.
I was almost done. I got one more thing. So, just one more thing. I wanted to let all of you know that I've been working with Rachel Berry, and she may talk about it in her department report about setting up a steering committee for the Parks and Recreation. I know we had talked about the potential future of what happens after the $2 fee or during the $2 fee. And so we're looking for some interested parties around the community from a breadth of experience and knowledge to sit on that steering committee. So we have a somewhat of a laundry list of individuals that we would like to have participated. We started contacting those people. If you, either any of you or know of anybody who you think would be a good fit for that steering committee, please let myself know, and I'm happy to get in touch with them so that we can start meeting. That's all I got.
Did you contact the owners of the other fitness organizations?
I have reached out to, I have talked to Pacific Athletic Club. They have not returned any of my phone calls or emails from the past. I have not reached out to the fitness place here at the very end of the corner here. But the fitness organizations were one that did make our list. We're just not sure who specifically we can get on there.
Right.
Okay, Kathy.
I guess earlier you heard the proposal from Lynn for the Dalton Lake. She emailed me and was wondering when she would hear about if the council approved the proposal. So was it something you guys were going to discuss today, or is it?
Well, I think we also have some other stuff to discuss too. Yeah, we're going to discuss it here in a little bit. I'll bring it up in my report.
That's all.
Yep. Okay. All right, let's go with Tina, and then we'll go Rachel. Halloween Town.
Always last.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I just wanted to, I'm going to jump around a little bit for what's been happening. To add to Crystal's numbers, we now have over 650,000 people that have visited Discover Columbia County for Spirit of Halloween Town and other events within Columbia County. And the other cities are starting to send more information more regularly as they see that they can post anything that they want. There's no charge to do that, to get the word out in the community. The other thing I want to do right away is thank Public Works and Thad's team and the police officers for making Halloween a real success this year. We have, we're still making record sales, which actually surprises me, because at some point I always think this is going to flatline and it can't always beat last year. But we have exceptional sales reports coming in from the merchants. The Peter Fasinelli pumpkin lighting, that was a success, and having a twilight kind of slant coming back into town. He was really happy and really liked it, sent a thank you note to everybody, easy to work with.
Seemed pretty pleasant.
Yeah, very. And this weekend we have Benny Reno Romano coming to light the pumpkin, which is kind of apropos because we also have the Haunted Hearse and Hot Rod Rally this weekend. So Benny will be arriving in a car for lighting the pumpkin. And during the day, we have invested in street entertainers, which have been free for anybody that wants to come to Halloween Town. They've been really well received. People love them. There's, 10 people deep watching them.
We haven't had any issues with the bathrooms other than people really don't want to use porta potties. So they will wait in line when there's no line at the porta potties for permanent bathrooms.
Yep.
So if there's any future bathroom scenario, I'm all for that. The other question that I had is on the circle in the middle of the plaza, if there's any chance we could possibly get that to be flat instead of concave. I guess that's a question for Sue maybe, or Dave. Because whenever we set something on that, it is always and we have Christmas coming up, and we just always go back to the same old thing about trying to make that a level, safe surface for people to come up onto. So if we can figure out how to flatten that, that would be awesome. The other thing is, I know that Jenny is working on a new stage design for the waterfront, and we are looking forward to that. Wanna Credit Union is excited that we're moving forward in that direction. And we are also working on new Christmas lights. And one of the questions or comments that somebody noticed, which I don't know how you can fix this or what you can do about it, but is that the lights don't shine as much because we put them on street lights. So the street lights are on and then the Christmas lights aren't as bright. I don't know the solution to that. That's above my pay grade. But maybe you guys do, or someone out there knows the solution to that. So I'm hoping. And we have a team that is actually going to redo all of our Christmas lights. So that's going to be awesome because we have a ton of them that just aren't being used that are really cool.
Are we still going to use the balls, though, that were caged?
The balls.
Ornaments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those are
But
cool.
we have all these, I guess we have all these really cool old vintage Christmas, light pole fixtures that just, the lights aren't on them. So we're going to actually redo those.
Oh,
all.
yeah. They burned
You know
out
what I
over
mean?
the years.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So the new little bucket thing will be amazing because that will make that go quicker. And I have some merchants that have been asking me about how you can make First Street for retail. And so I'll just throw that out there. You guys can maybe talk about how we could possibly, because there is no more retail space available now. It's completely booked. Woodland Cottage is expanding, Running Dogs has expanded, and people are really looking for retail space on First Street. So that is, I think, it.
How many people do you guesstimate? I kind of got a number in my head for the parade.
I think the parade had about 8,000 people.
I was going to say at least 7,500
Mhm.
to 10,000
Yeah,
is what I was going to say.
yeah. And we don't really count people during the week per se, but I mean, in the course of a week, I think that definitely had probably 10 to 12,000 in that week.
It were at least 15 deep, both sides
Yeah,
of the road up by
mhm.
Sunshine, starting
Right.
off the get-go.
Yeah.
Yep, so.
That one of the things I hope that we can do for next year is I think that it's time to turn it into a real parade where the street is maybe closed for like a minimum of an hour and a half before the parade, because the traffic pattern before the parade is actually kind of dangerous. There's so many people trying to last minute park and running around and around and around trying to find a space is really.
It's a fine line between our
It
citizens,
is.
between our citizens and
Yeah.
our visitors.
But I mean, it's like in Portland when you do the Starlight Parade, they close the street for like 4 hours ahead of the Starlight Parade because they just realize how much traffic is coming down. And
Yeah, but Portland doesn't have one main street that splits both sides of town.
yeah,
Portland has multiple ways of getting around.
but can we go on 30, right? No?
up and down 30 to west, and it's very
Yeah.
confusing for some people that don't live here.
Yeah, maybe we can figure out
We'll try
like
to,
a
yeah.
designated parking or something like that, because it's really crazy watching people from out of town just do
Spin
this.
circles. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
No, good
You
job,
have-
Tina.
Yeah, great job. Do you have a dates in place for a huge debriefing exercise for everyone of, we all know what went right. We all know how effective and efficient some things are, and things that we can improve on. Will we have our citizens and council and anyone else, staff, have an
Well,
opportunity
hopefully.
to vent? Yeah.
Yeah, if that we can invite them, and hopefully they show up.
Yeah.
Because I've been collecting things as we go along and putting it into a presentation so that we can do that at the end and then get feedback and.
Well, that's been
like,
my
make
standard
changes,
answer. Is
you
I
know?
go around the community and someone says, "What about this?" I says, "We'll have a chance.
Yeah.
I hope to all debrief after this."
Well, and a
then
lot of
figure it out."
people private message me on Facebook and
Yeah.
give me ideas about what could we
Sure.
do for this, and that's really helpful because a lot of times they know about specific areas that, they're really familiar with and I'm not. So, yeah,
Good work.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's have our associate planner come up, Jenny Dishmo. I said it right. Dim before the show. Dim before the show. Didn't I say that right? Okay. Dim show.
Got it right. No.
I got it right that time.
What's up?
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. I was just here to listen.
Oh, I thought you were.
Yeah,
I thought you
no.
were going to give a report.
Genuinely, yeah, no, and the fact that you wanted
You
to
got
talk-
an earful, didn't
Yeah,
you?
no, it's interesting. Yeah, well, here, Rachel.
Well, what do you got? Nothing new going on in the queue. Nothing. I know that you just got
Crystal's communications report kind of summarized a lot of
A lot
the
of what
major
you did,
projects
yes.
that are going on right now. Yeah, really excited about the ribbon ceremony that Doug has been planning and working on. But
So it's once a month we'll do Jenny and then Jacob. So every other month we get to see you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Glad you're down here listening in. All right, Rachel Berry, come on up.
Thank you for the time and space on your agenda. And thank you to all of the department folks in the room and out watching out there for helping me get acclimated and up to speed, and I appreciate each of your time. So I hope that you've reviewed your packet. A lot of this information is redundant. A lot of the good news that I've put together is from Crystal, from the press releases that have been happening, from department updates that are given from time to time. What I would like to do is have consistent messaging so that when you are out in the community, when I'm out in the community, we are all speaking from the same set of wonderful news items. So if I can direct your attention to the good news to share page, this will be updated at least every other month. We have a lot of good news. It is hard to get it all together. And as you saw from Crystal's report, there's a lot of communication activity that she's undertaking, and that is kind of always on. She really is always on. This is meant to be for your use and for your sharing when you're out with civic groups or your neighbors or at the coffee shop or having lunch or wherever, because you are the best ambassadors for the city. And we need everyone to be consistent in what we're sharing. And with that, this good news will also be shared with our state and federal partners and with any of the groups in town locally. So, be aware. And always send me good news. If you have personal good news, if there are projects that you're working on that haven't made the sheet or that haven't made a press release, please do send them on over. And so how are we going to share this information, right? That is the next couple of pages in your packet. I have put together a citizen engagement and outreach plan that is the implementation of council goal number 2, enhancing community civic engagement through proactive information sharing and outreach. Here we go.
We were all jazzed about it when we were doing the
Good.
goals, so it's time to get re-jazzed.
There are a number of elements of the other goals that are in there that the plan I'm presenting here is also going to touch on and move forward. So I've just kind of listed those out, not the full goal statements, but just to highlight those elements that we can get at by implementing this plan. I've gone through a couple of audiences, what the goals are, and our tactics will be. A lot of it's really basic. A lot of it is the city's a great source of information, the expertise is here, and that we're all sharing the same messages.
Because there's so much going on.
Because there's so much going on, and it's a really exciting time. And thanks to your work and leadership and stewardship, it's about to go. Like, we're gonna go. So it'll be fun. I've then gone through and put together activities by month. I've just grouped them by 2 months for now as I'm getting my feet under me and as we're starting to kind of feel out the capacity for these events. The way I have organized my thinking is I'm talking about the visuals, things that are happening around town that keep going, Kathy. Things that you'll be able to point to. For example, brush hogging is happening and the fence around the Tualatin Street stairwell would be coming down. This connects to our urban trail and to the idea of connecting our town to the waterfront.
Nice.
Yes. And then we've got a number of additional outreach opportunities listed. And as you'll see, for the next 2 months, we've got the fence removal. We're gonna have some goats in to help us remove vegetation on the hillside. And hopefully we can partner with some local groups to bring out goats, to bring more attention to the great stewardship and the great activities that are happening around our waterfront and start to build the buzz.
They got really weird eyes.
But they're delightful. Everybody loves goats. We're hoping for photo ops with the goats or Christmas cards or something like that. So, storefront, we, in partnership, have the opportunity to take a lot of the work that's happened and bring it out of City Hall. We have the opportunity to work in partnership and use a storefront up in Holton to bring out some of the displays, some of the visioning that has happened over the years, and also to work in partnership with our food bank, our school district, and really kind of, take it to the street, as it were.
Some of the only problem I have with our visioning is it's not really quite, we have redrawn up some of it, and some of it is very old, and people think that's not what I want my city to be, and it's not what the vision is.
Well.
But it's a general concept.
Sure, and I like the idea
So I'd like to be careful with that,
of bringing out some of the.
releasing some of that.
I really want to bring everything we've created and talk about different elements and what's important and the framework that we started with. And I would like you to join me. I would love for there to be opportunities for each of you to spend time, coffee with a counselor, for folks to drop in and chat and ask questions with staff there to help out. So come on up.
Veterans Memorial.
Yes, the Veterans Memorial. Councilor Morton, we met today, and I know that the press release and the flyer, thanks to Crystal, have been
Do
shared.
you have any of these by chance to distribute to the?
I do not. Once my report is complete, I can certainly get those and drop some at the back table for
Tonight.
for tonight and for any audience members. And that's been disseminated through all of Crystal's channels, through all the email channels, press advisories, that type of thing. And I've been making personal invites and follow-ups on that too. And then we've got a great visual, non-visual, thanks to our Public Works crew, that there will not be flooding on South 10th Street. There should not be. But I think it's important to call out some of those things where the city has been working hard to delivering those basic vital services that no one ever notices.
They take for granted, yes.
How do we talk about that, and how do we talk about the strong work of Public Works? So that's kind of the first 2 months just as a as the sampler.
Yep.
This is an active document. If you have input or caution or things that you want to talk about, please let me know. It's going to be available. I will report to you periodically and give you kind of the next 2 months, or we'll come to a place where I can get you the information you need. We can effectively do some outreach and engagement.
Well, this kind of goes right along with our council goals. So, I mean, you just kind of tracking this, getting this going, it kind of goes with us as far as what we want done. It's just one vital step.
Putting it down in black and white is so important. It's as important as talking about it.
Yep.
I do a lot of talking, but
It never
now
gets
that
into
it's
black and
down-
white, yes.
Yeah, now that
Yeah.
it's down, it's a pretty cool thing for everyone to see and reference.
And it is my work plan. If people ask what I am doing and my function for the city, like, this is what I'm up to. So
Yep.
I hope it's helpful.
Great. Yes.
Okay. And as we go along, any events, any questions, concerns, please let me know.
Wonderful.
I also have built in, one other thing. I have a couple things I need to produce to go along with this, but I also have a number of items I want to measure. So as it rolls out, I'm hoping to have some metrics and some reportable numbers.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. John?
All right, I just appreciate the council's decision to have Rachel come aboard and kind of work on this community engagement effort. You see, there's kind of an inbound component and outbound where we're kind of organizing ourselves internally and communicating that message out. You know, we're celebrating successes. We're providing opportunities for the public to get involved in the decision-making processes. And just a lot of good community involvement. It's what builds a healthy community. But I don't know how much more I can say after all the good things about Halloween. All the economic impacts related to that are just phenomenal. How many people that wander out of their cars around the plaza and step off the curb and looking up at the buildings. It's just, you see it almost all day long, really. It's so that's all very good. Yeah, I think that's it. We're continuing. The lagoon, the technical work is proceeding as scheduled. We'll have some check-ins here soon on that, and plenty of opportunities for input. And we're talking about in Rachel's plan she came up with there is having a state of the city address sometime around the first of the year. Goal settings, doing Scappoose has a annual community meeting. We're looking at something maybe similar to that, and
yeah,
for your consideration. So.
Right. Thanks, Sean. Keith.
Thanks. I was late today because I was invited to the high school Cancer Awareness Assembly. There was about 700 students there, and there was a panel of 5, and we all talked about how our lives have been infected by cancer and our families and whatnot. And I think it was fairly well received, but high school kids think they're, nothing could happen to them, so it's kind of, but I think it did sink in, so there was a lot of kids came up and thanked us and whatnot, so it was a good thing. And while I was there, Keith Mewson came up to me, and he would like us to possibly schedule one of our work session meetings at the high school.
We talked about that.
And maybe start, like 3 o'clock, so when kids get off, they can come and see. And then we need to think about our agenda, have it interesting so the kids could participate in it and things they're interested in and different things like that. So,
well, if we want an audience, we have it at 1 o'clock, and they get excused from their classes. I mean, that's a no-brainer. 3 o'clock rolls around, everyone's out the door. I know
that's
one.
true. So yeah,
Doug used to teach. Listen to him.
Yeah.
I was out the door too, but I was coaching.
And that, I think that's it.
Thanks. Councilor Topaz.
Oh, I'm giving this to the council as a check request for my trip down to.
Oh, yep.
I just gave the president my check request. I guess this Matt gave it to me. I have passed out. Well, let's start with the first thing. I've been at the Portland Harbor cleanup CAIG meetings downtown in Portland, and a couple of things have come up. In June, the final design report was supposed to be done and submitted to the EPA. It wasn't, and still ongoing. No real idea when it's going to get done. Now, the other thing that came up, there was the presentation this week was by the city of Portland, and they now have a granting agency or granting mechanism, and they're asking all of the different groups around town to present a method by which they can be informed on what they're interested in as the harbor goes along. And a lot of them are not scientifically clipped in, so they want to have the science that's being gathered presented in a way they can understand it. Now, this granting agency was funded by an addition to the water bill. The problem with that is most people thought the addition to the water bill was going to be something that would start digging dirt. So they really were raising the flag that anytime you attach anything to the water bill, please, please, please make it absolutely clear what it's for. The other thing that came out is some of the remedial techniques where they will try to keep the toxic waste in the river in place and cover it makes it so the people who own the waterfront can't use the waterfront for anything that is not being used for at that time forever. And some of the EPA techniques that were acceptable were good for lakes but not for the river. That was what came out of the Portland cleanup. The other thing that came up because of this granting of information presentation, that won't be in place for 2 years, and the expectation of when they will start cleaning up the harbor ranges from anywhere from 5 to 15 years before they start digging dirt, as far as guessing what's going on. I also passed out to the council some information on the cannabis business, and there are two readouts, one from New York, one from San Francisco, how the cannabis business is slowly going down the tube. And as I won't read it, I'll let the council read it. The thing that I'm worried about is, with their suggestion, is it may go belly up, and if the city's in the process of holding a company that's doing cannabis, we may end up with a bankrupt company, and since we will be holding paper for a number of years, we could be in financial problems because of it, and I would hope that we in the council could get some financial advice about how good this business is going to be in the next 3 to 10 years. That's what I got to say.
Okay. Council President Morton.
Yeah, I'd like to report on the Parks Commission, and the Parks Commission endorsed the recommendation of the Dalton Lake Nature Preserve project, if lack of a better word, ongoing improvements to the council. So if we do hear that, we know that we have the thumbs up from the Parks Commission. Jen, can I, pardon me, can I refer to you about a bit about the Parks Commissions? Can you kind of surmise what's going on with the trails and the trails discussions that they had, and it was kind of left undone, whether I recommend any of their discussion pieces to the council or not? Could you come forward, and could I ask you to reflect on our urban trail proposal and your grant that you obtained for your trail proposal?
Yeah, so in the Parks and Trails Master Plan, we noticed that there's some undeveloped right-of-way from Nob Hill to Columbia Boulevard. And so that was a recommended trail route in the master plan. And so I attempted and was successfully awarded that grant to do some of that work. The Parks and Trails Commission, or a member of the Parks and Trails Commission, also developed their own route that duplicates a portion of that trail route. And so I think I left at 5, and I believe the conversation happened after I left, but they again brought up the urban trail proposal. Now, it's important to note that their proposal is not in the recommended plan. Some of it is duplicated on a different route, and then some of it goes well beyond Columbia Boulevard, particularly the portion that uses the Wyeth Street staircase up by Gray Cliffs. So I do think there are still elements of that proposal from the commission that could be incorporated into the trails plan when we do our update. But I think that having duplicative trails south of Columbia Boulevard doesn't really make sense. And the intent of the Parks and Trails Master Plan was to look at the whole system cohesively and to vet those proposals with staff and with members of the public. And so to come last minute and say, like, you know, this
Right.
route over this route, it seemed counterproductive.
Yeah, and that came from the chairman in a sense, and they really never took a vote on it to recommend that or not. But it was, I certainly saw a lot of head nods that it could be a phase 2, something
absolutely.
something that is on their radar
Right.
or accomplishing next if they possibly can, something that they'll continue to push.
Yeah.
So
And quite frankly, I think a lot of their proposal is about marketing than anything. It's about like having some signage and a map that shows the route and getting people to use what's already there.
Yeah.
And I've always been an advocate. If you want to market a trail route, then by all means. So I think that's just one other element.
Well, it was a very productive session. It went quite some time.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to get you up to make certain that you explained it much better than I could, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
On the Dalton Lake discussion too, I kind of wanted to talk about next steps with that if the council is wanting to move forward. So I don't know if you want to discuss.
I was actually going to bring that up in
Okay,
my discussion,
great.
so just go ahead, give us right now.
Well-
Are you done?
Right.
Are you done?
No, but I'll come back.
In working with Lynn, who gave her presentation, you know, it's my understanding that the next step would be to work with ODOT on a signage placement plan and tell them what we actually want physically on the ground and give them a nice site plan that shows where all these things would be installed. And so if you're willing to move forward, I think you just direct staff to work with ODOT in getting some of these improvements. That's what I think the next step would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of felt that way, so
Yeah, and
there you go.
so the other question is, you know, I don't know that Lynn has worked out the financial piece. You know, she's waiting for approval, and so she kind of talked about writing a grant for the bike rack. I don't know if they're also going to write a grant for the kiosk materials and maybe some trail materials and the signage materials.
I gave her a bit of discouraging news about, you know, looking at making certain that we budget those kinds of things, especially in our next budget session. So that becomes important. And if that committee was thinking that it would happen tomorrow or next week, I think that's very unrealistic. But in the future, we can earmark those.
Did you get a sense? Because it was my sense that she was going to fundraise and
Yes.
donate those items to the
Exactly.
city. Okay.
If she can do that.
So I don't think she's asking for a budget allocation. I think the Friends of Dalton Lake or Dalton Lake Nature Preserve was going to work to acquire those funds or get donated materials, was my understanding. So if that's the case, then really the only ask is to work with staff and get ODOT's approval for
And
the
in
actual
kind,
improvements.
in kind for public works
Exactly.
and crews.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we thought it was important. We thought it was important for the preservation of that area, just to go ahead and let it be a friends of and move it forward.
Yeah, and I really want to thank Lynn for being so open and willing to work. There's a lot of Columbia City residents that showed up at the Parks Commission, and I think she did a great job at dealing with maybe concerns of privacy that they have. You know, right now Dalton Lake's not really utilized, and so
clearly these improvements are going to increase visibility of the site and more people are going to use it. And I think, you know, one of her goals is to not encourage trespassing. Like she certainly, that group does not want to encourage trespassing and made that clear. And I think they left feeling like they were listened to and supported. And so I do think that this group is a very collaborative group. They're not.
That's funny
yeah.
because the group they're targeting is not the trespassing type. It's actually the people that aren't there, probably on the reference of Dalton Lake.
Sure.
That are the trespassers,
Exactly.
right, Chief?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think more eyes out there will also alleviate some of the concerns of vagrancy and campers and things like that. If you have more eyes,
yep,
that stuff tends to go away. So.
Okay, so thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to
Yeah,
Doug.
and I told that committee that I would come forward with a name, and I don't know if the Planning Commission really needs this as a vote or anything, but to start referring to that area as the Dalton Lake Nature Preserve from now on out. And if that's okay with the council, that would be the name. Have a thumbs up on that, or do we need a vote, motion and a vote, or what? But I told the commission that I'd come forward with that. Other than just Dalton Lake area, I think is what it's referred to now.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's really
that's what
about
this
what
does.
we
It sets
refer
a
to.
motion
Yeah.
for grants, for kinds of things that that give us a forethought in planning of what we want to do with that area.
Wasn't Dalton a doctor? Didn't he own that whole area, like from Lamont on towards?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he did. I'd
From
like to learn.
Lamont
I would like to actually get a little history before we go ahead and. I think it's great to do a name like that, but I think it would be nice to also recognize. I think he was a doctor who lived off of Lamont Street down here on the river, and all that property out that way.
Be a good thing for a kiosk and a reader board of some sort in the park.
Yep, I think so. We
Right
need to
up
get with the
preserve.
Historical Society a little bit.
Yeah.
Touch base on that.
The Museum Association. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah, that sounds good. We have a nature park, Nob Hill Nature Park, and we now have a nature preserve. I like that. Good. That's great. I also want to encourage all our staff, all our crews to attend this brown bag celebration, dedication of the Veterans Memorial Plaza. And it will be on November 1st at 12 o'clock. We've got Betsy Johnson to come here to cut the ribbons, as long as all the players who contributed in not only financially, but in kind, such as our Public Works and our staff. Oh my heavens, I never realized how much staff time this would take, but it's taken a lot of staff time, a lot of planning. The business community that contributed immensely to this project, not with their expertise in engineering and with products like the concrete and the sand and gravel, all those kinds of products, and the VFW, the veterans, and Public Works, and all these people came together to somehow come up with this design and make this happen. And this is City of St. Helens, so it's a dedication. It's kind of a historical kind of day for us for that ribbon cutting. So I'd encourage everyone to attend and try to get there if we can by noon. We could all get out 10 minutes early, right? Right? Yeah, exactly. So figuring a little travel time to get there. And I wanted to ask the council if the council would be so kind to purchase a cake to cut and some beverages, coffee and tea. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
It's the least we could do.
Okay.
One cupcake and
A cupcake. Okay.
Oh, get a full,
Okay, well,
get a full sheet. Get a full sheet
Okay,
cake.
so we'll
Yes.
get a cake and whatever
Yep.
and everything. That's the total expense of all of this.
Definitely.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, council.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so this morning I was actually out with the Community Access Freshman Group, about 80 students out at the high school, speaking on ways they can get involved in our community. There was the United Way, the Health District, the St. Helens Fire Department, Habitat for Humanity, and myself that spoke to them for about 5 minutes, and it was very nice. Good turnout for the National Guard, Troop 741 Brigade, Sandoff. There was myself, Brad Witt, Betsy Johnson, a couple other out of areas senator reps, and then the governor herself showed up as well. And we got to send them off and shake each and every one of their hands. So that was very cool. It was a Councilor Topacity counted 96. I thought I shook 100, and he said I counted 96 that were actually.
There were 96 people standing. There were
Yes,
some
at
others
attention.
wandering around who had uniforms
yes.
too.
So, but you know, I mean, their whole family showed up, and yeah, it was nice. So the shoestrings players, we have that discussion, and I'm just looking at their. We talked about Christmas show. I know that's what I kind of brought up, and that's one they brought. And their theater expense is $2,700. But I looked down below, and for them to be able to do that, there would be $1,425 in the hole. I don't know how the council feels about helping them out to the tune of $1,500, which would keep them out of that. Be able to allow them to do the theater expense, which isn't the whole cost, but it keeps them out. If you look at the below, you have your statement right there. You see the estimated profit, keeps them out of the red for that show, and would definitely want some sponsorship. At least the city of St. Helens helps present sponsors for $1,500, and it enhances our downtown Christmas activities. I don't know. That's not giving them the whole 27. That's keeping them out of the red under their their projections down here. And the other side was them not even doing the theater expense and not buying nothing new, and which is really not. I don't know. They just seemed like it would be a kind of right there in the middle. How's anybody else feeling on this?
Well, tell me how you're reading this. The 1425 is on the left side. The 1275 is on the other side.
So that would be the 1475 would be
Or 1425.
1425 would be without her doing the theater expenses, which would keep them out. So basically, 1425 negative and 1275 positive is $2,700. So what I'm saying is we give them $1,500. Matt, do you have a copy of this? Kathy, could you just have them look at the bottom? So basically, what she said, if you see the highlighted yellow, the $2,700 is the theater expense for the production of the Christmas program. Down below, she has two estimated profits: negative if they spend the $2,700, and positive if they don't spend the $2,700, which is basically the $2,700 there. What I'm saying is, this: if I'm proposing we give them $1,500 to sponsor the show, which would allow them to at least break even on their show. Is that what you see? I mean, just from standard numbers.
Yeah, I'm looking at I'm looking at John though to see if.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. So that's about the show. The $2,700. My understanding is that's their monthly rent, and this is 1 month out of the year, and the next month is this show happens during December, and I don't know what happens in January and after that. So if this is just a Band-Aid or if it's a fix to get them on the right path. So
that's what I was going to ask: is did they talk about their future?
Yeah,
they did.
I mean, what's their plans
They
for the
did.
future?
I mean, Doug questioned them. I want the rest of the council to chime in on this because it feels like I'm defending them because they asked the questions, and we've had them here 4 times. So I'm gonna actually shut up and let the rest of the council and let you guys discuss this amongst you.
The one thing they didn't say is how much they expected from their sponsors. They said sponsors, and they gave kind of levels that could be sponsorships, but they didn't say how much they expected. They had a few sponsors. They didn't say whether they were $5 or $500 sponsors. One thing's a matching. You need that much, we'll match you up to so much. The rest you've got to raise yourself. That's, they also talked about raising their ticket prices. They've got to get a stick in the pie, too.
So do you have any suggestions with, to piggyback on with the mayor's request for 1,500?
I'll go 700. They've got to raise with sponsors the other 700 basically. They need basically $1,500 to make it a go. If I give them half and have the sponsors raise the other half, obviously they're asking people. They asked us first.
Keith?
I would somewhat agree with that. I mean, it's always hard to know what sponsors are going to do because they look at it as kind of advertising dollars. And
Keith, and I don't think you heard this, so I just want to bring this up. They expressed that their new venue is not letting them, what they found this so far with their shows is that people are finally starting to get a little bit familiar with their new location because they've been out of their closet basically for the last 4 years and doing random shows. So that's part of where they're at. Just so you didn't hear that. I think you came in just after that.
well, that's always advertising
Yep.
your event.
Yep.
Where's the funds come from?
Council.
Council discretionary?
And we're okay with
You're
spending.
okay. Gosh,
Okay.
Mike stinks.
Well,
so
you
at
don't
the
know. You
beginning of
you haven't seen that cake I'm ordering.
I just keep in mind this obviously is not the last request you're going to have till June, and most likely there's some heavier requests in there for Habitat for Humanity, for sea expenses, and all this other stuff. So I just caution you: the more you give away, the more people tend to come in and ask for more. So it's kind of opening up Pandora's box, so to speak.
Margaret, can you just yank your mic over towards Matt?
If I could,
yeah.
So I
John?
mentioned that it was my concern about being a Band-Aid, and part of that is it's a Band-Aid to a permanent solution. Is that the council should know that they are in there on a temporary use or temporary occupancy permit right now. The building needs some fairly substantial financial upgrades, which are going to transfer to some building to meet the building code compliance, and we can bring the building code in, or building official in if we need to talk about what those are. But there's been we've required a code analysis of what it takes to meet the building requirements. They've provided that. There's been compromise negotiation back and forth, and the minimum, even doing the minimum things is pretty significant expense relative to their ask. So context for that decision, I just want to let you know that. So.
Okay.
Is it possible they're going to have to go to a different place to be halfway economical? Or can that building really be made golden?
I don't know that that's our job to answer.
No, but as I say, is the redo so expensive?
Yes. Well, it'll never hold enough people. I mean, 100 people is nothing. I mean, the auditorium would hold 400, something like that. And it's a beautiful auditorium, and here we are having a 5-show Christmas special, and they're talking about, the ticket price has to be so high that half the town can't afford it. So it'd be better to lower the ticket price and fill up the auditorium at the school.
Council was asking them to raise the ticket price.
I know that, but that was only to raise money, though. It wasn't for
consider
the thought of more people seeing the show, enjoying the show.
But kind of my thing is the reason I thought this was it enhances our downtown activities. We definitely have plenty to do around Halloween Town, but Christmas we don't, and that was kind of my feeling on it, and maybe I'm just a softie, and I don't know.
Can we work a website into the agreement?
about the.
Pardon me?
Can we work a website into the agreement?
That is true. Them holding, I probably should have questioned them on that if they knew anything about that. 'Cause I know it was the future. The past chair does hold a website that kind of collaborates with our Spirit of Halloween Town, and we were told to talk to his attorney. And I don't know that the rest of the board even knows that.
I know it's not a popular discussion, but if we're going to give them $700, $1,500, $2,000, creation of a partnership, so to speak, it would be nice if it was a partnership in both ways.
Yeah, how many of the council knows that? Do you guys know that? That's happened? That I know because I'm in charge of administration, but yes, that is what we were told when we found out that the Shoestrings had a certain link to Halloween Town that they owned. We asked for them to relieve that little website, which isn't very significantly big, but it does direct people to. And we were told directly by Brian Verovic, who was the chair, to talk to his attorney. And I don't know that the rest of the board knows, and we probably should have confronted them, but I didn't even think about that till just it was brought up. Maybe a phone call from staff, and I don't know if you could.
I would bet at least one of those board members.
Do they want? Well, we know that. We know one knows for sure. His wife, I'm pretty sure, would know, but maybe not. You never know.
Did you have any questions about the building issues over there in that space? Because we have Mike standing in the waiting there.
Don't use my mic.
Well, Michael, we know that building could have been actually qualified for a grant, the Main Street grant, 2.5 years ago, which was awarded by Shedco to El Tapatio, which failed to utilize that $100,000. And the drawing, the rendering for El Tapatio was done by a certain individual who was the chair of Shedco at the time. And Michael Elliott sure would have made those upgrades that we're going to hear about right now had he had that $100,000 grant. And I'm hoping that the movie theater is able to move forward with their $200,000 grant. I pray and hope. It's a lot of money to this community. So let's hear about what's the issues over there.
So excuse me.
Michael DeRosa, our
so the Shoestring Players had come to us last year, just wanting a temporary occupancy for a haunted house originally. And we were working through that exercise. The timeline wasn't working out, so later on they asked if they could temporarily move in there for up to a year while we determined whether or not the space was a viable space for them to be able to stay into. And we talked about the different requirements that would come with that, and they started going through that, one of which included a code analysis of the space, and then going through some of the provisions of the existing building code. And through that exercise, it was determined that they had a few options, one of which was installing a fire alarm system inside of that building. And if they install that, then they have all the requirements of the building code are met at that point, with exception to restrooms, for them to have the full occupancy that they'd like to have. So, and that's where it's been left off at this point. They did ask for a short extension to get them through the month of October, which we did approve. And at that point, we need to get into more of those permanent provisions. So, any other questions?
So they don't have a
They don't.
permit through December?
Not as no, not as of now.
They're advertising.
I saw the signs up in their windows. Yes, I did.
And that would be an ask from you, because you are the.
I'm sorry, what was
that would be an ask to you, because you are the city building official.
Yeah, they would have to make a request either
Yes.
to extend that temporary occupancy, or get completed with the other permanent provisions for the permanent occupancy.
We need to put this off We need to put it off.
I had him here. I wish we'd have known all
I
this
know.
a little bit sooner. Somebody needs to speak up and grow a set. So, all right. Well, this has been going on. This has been going on for 3 months. That's why I'm wanting to wipe this off my agenda. That's all.
Yeah.
I apologize, but that's where I'm frustrated. They're a long-standing nonprofit in our community, and it just seems like there's a lot of issues that they're not being forthcoming, and we could probably have addressed them a little more bluntly earlier, and I didn't know some of this information. So, all right. What else do I have to report on? I don't know how I feel about paying for mileage for the meeting to Portland Harbor. I just don't know how I feel about that, because, you know, there was some discussion earlier that the water bill Councilor Topaz was talking about was Portland's water bill, not St. Helens water bill, not a fee on St. Helens water bill. I know it can be very confusing if you just came in, and so he's reporting on a whole nother city, a whole nother jurisdiction. I don't know that I'm comfortable in. If you want to attend for your own personal knowledge, then that's fine. Other than if you can, that's just my feel on it. And I'm only one council member, and Doug obviously signed off on your mileage there, but I would rather have staff attend those meetings if we had to pay them, if we felt they were that vitally important to us to have information from the Portland Harbor, which is only connection would be if it ever came to fruition that the some of the dredgings came here, would be our only link, and it's not a big secret, and it's not nothing that should be hidden in an executive session and never will be. And I'm perfectly fine to talk about it in front of anybody, but I just don't know that I'm comfortable in paying the mileage for one individual to go there.
Past practice is to always ask before you go to the meetings.
Okay.
Ask
'Cause
before
I
you go
didn't
to the
know.
meeting, and then when you come back from the meeting, report on it. That's the most important thing, is that you're a liaison to the council, and we expect a report.
Well, and
Any kind of written material that you obtain, and any kind of information that you, anyone obtains for distribution to the council, that's, to me, that's important.
My only problem with it is the confusion that it leads to, like Rachel was talking about, that us being all on the same page. Now, if somebody just chimed in, they hear that we're charging something else for a water bill, is what they're going to think. Because it wasn't very clear, but I followed you clear enough because I'm with you at this meeting. But if you're not, and you don't know what a person is talking about, you're saying, what? They're wanting to add another fee to our water bill? For what? To pay for dredgings? What? That leaves out of here as misinformation. And like I said, if I think if it's that vitally important for this council to be notified of what Portland Harbor, which is a whole group of river keepers and everything else all combined at once, if we felt it was vitally important to get information from those meetings, it should be from a staff and then a staff report, in my opinion. I'm just going to leave that there for right now, and I'd like to.
I've actually been to some of the Portland Harbor community advisory groups and even presented at some. And, you know, it's a good platform for community engagement. It's kind of the go-to place for the harbor project. It's been going for
what, 2001?
20 years and near
2001.
going on 20 years. And then there's, you know, there's a technical side to it, and then there's kind of a non-technical side where you have the, you know, science versus non-science or more speculative types of groups, and they're formidable. I mean, they have a lot of energy behind it, and it's interesting to keep a finger on the pulse. I mean, they've had some projects that may have gone differently if they would have taken different paths as far as not the entire project, but certain elements of the project.
Then how about a written report? Because I don't want anything coming out of here leaving. If you're gonna, I want facts on there. I want actual, not opinions. I don't want any misleading information. So all I'm asking for is maybe a report of the findings that are fact finding. That's it. That's it. That way, because I'm afraid, the only thing I'm afraid of is people hearing something differently about our water bill, that we're putting $2 fee on the rec bill, but you were talking water bill, and that people wanted to pay, thought it was gonna be to pay to clean it up, and all of a sudden, the wrong person hears that in here and says, what? Even if it's in here, they didn't hear it right, and they take off out of here, and as long as it's in a report, then it's scripted and it's the facts, so. That's my whole thing about that.
So the Portland Bureau of Environmental Services was funded by the water program at one point, and they've taken a pretty good whipping over that, and I think they've redirected their course, and that's fairly straightened out now. But
They took a whipping over.
the environmental services program being paid out of the water fund.
Oh.
Yeah, a big lawsuit a few years ago, and a community advisory group, and it was a big to-do, and the dust has settled for that largely. So.
Interesting, okay. Okay, that's all I have. So let's adjourn, we will be going in. Yes, it was approved, we had all, yep. Can we direct staff to call shoestring players, Shannon, I guess is the chair, or whoever, and, yep. Okay. All right, we're gonna adjourn, and we're gonna take at least a 10-minute break and then go into executive session. We're adjourned.
Good catch before you adjourned.
Yep.
Yeah. You're set there.
The point was exactly that. We better make sure.